to stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear in the matter now in hearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right. This is the matter of Lindsay Gaetani versus Aidan Kearney. Judge Christopher, she issued an emergency restraining order on Christmas Eve, December 24th. I extended the order after hearing where Ms. Gaetani testified in front of me on December 26th. It's returnable today. If counsel could please identify themselves in the record.
Dan Goodrich, representing Ms. Gaetani.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michael Pollack, representing Ms. Gaetani.
Nancy Gaetani.
Hello, Your Honor. 𝗵𝗵𝗡𝗄𝗏 on behalf of Aidan Kearney. For the record, my client is before the court in custody. Your Honor, this is my client, Aidan Kearney.
Ms. Kearney?
Aidan Kearney.
Okay. Ms. Gaetani, are you moving to extend this order today?
Yes, I am.
Is your client opposed to it?
We are.
Okay. And you had some preliminary?
I did. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Judge, I sent out 2 subpoenas, 𝗕𝗶𝗶 𝗧𝗵𝗂𝗂𝗍 last week. One of them is to the babysitter of Ms. Gaetani, Ms. Grace Barrett, and the service was effectuated on Friday at last unusual place of abode. And she's not here to the best of my knowledge. She's not here to the best of my knowledge, Your Honor. And she's someone that is very important to the defense of this case, because I have a statement that I provided to counsel coming in today for Ms. Gaetani, wherein Ms. Barrett indicates that Ms. Gaetani said to her, "No, he didn't assault me. He was only trying to get back the papers I took from him." And it's extremely important testimony. She's not here today. I have a statement from her, from my investigator, Mr. 𝗤𝗏𝗃, who's present here in the courtroom today. He would be a witness. But we don't have the best evidence. I know the rules of evidence are relaxed, they don't apply here, but I would like compliance with the subpoena, and also the 𝗙𝗪ce 𝗂𝗏 aspect of that subpoena was that she was to provide, she was to come here with text messages between her and Ms. Gaetani, text messages between her and Lieutenant Detective Tully of the Mass State Police, text messages between, or text voice statements, any statements basically, between her and the Mass State Police, between her and the Medfield State Police regarding this, because they're very important to the defense here, because we contend that this entire episode was engineered and set up by the Mass State Police. And so we were demanding, as is Mr. Kearney's absolute right, to subpoena those items to this evidentiary hearing. And we don't have them, we're deprived of them, and I want them. So I'm asking the court for assistance with this subpoena. And I have a proof of service from Friday. And I also have information, Judge, that third hand, but it's been filtered through to my defense team, Your Honor, that this woman has.
What woman?
Ms. Barrett, sorry. Ms. Barrett has put it out there, so to speak, that she's not coming. So she has noticed, she has been served, and I would ask that the 𝗫𝗄𝗏 issue and that we keep the hearing open until she appears with the required documentation. Obviously, an extremely important witness that would testify to this plaintiff's recantation of what she earlier said.
Mr. Goodrich? Is it Paul?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we object to the subpoena. We're moving to quash the subpoena. Essentially, Judge, multiple points on this. The first point is that we received the subpoena on Friday. It's impractical and unreasonable to expect anybody to, over the weekend, in a short period of time, pull together all of these communications. That takes a lot of time, and simply, we did not have that time to do that, and we haven't been able to do that. Secondly,
What information?
The information that's requested in the subpoena, Judge.
Secondly, Judge, just to help, I'm just trying to help here. I'm not trying to take over the floor. But counsel's, I think, addressing the same exact issues with respect to Ms. Gaetani's subpoena.
I'm dealing with this third party.
Yeah, I appreciate the help, counsel, but essentially, Judge, what we are objecting to the subpoena because this is nothing more than the sort of irrelevant and separate issues that we're trying to keep out of this hearing today. We're here today just for a 209A extension hearing. Your Honor already found that there was enough evidence to issue this order preliminarily. There is nothing that is requested in the subpoena that bears any relevance on the hearing here today. And it goes well beyond the scope of this civil hearing. And we ask that Your Honor quash that.
To the extent that they're arguing with respect to Ms. Barrett's subpoena, Judge, I don't see how they are standing to quash a subpoena of a third party.
Right.
And I think I've made an offer of proof as to relevance.
Where did this information come from? Where did this information come
So Mr. 𝗵𝗂𝗧 interviewed Ms. Barrett.
from? Your investigator.
Yes, and he wrote a report.
Have you
And
provided the report to the council?
yes, we have
This morning, Your
5
Honor.
minutes.
5 minutes.
about 4 minutes after I met her. So, yeah, she informed my investigator, and my investigator has a report that will submit it to evidence, Judge. But again, we should be entitled to the best evidence of it, where she would come in here and testify by way of offer of proof from the defense team that, Lindsay said to her, no, he didn't assault me. He was only trying to get back the papers I had taken from him. And obviously that, and there's 2 more pages of information that she's offered. So she's a vital witness to the defense here.
So what are you requesting that I do today?
I'm asking you to issue a 𝗘𝗖𝗄 for her to be brought in during court hours and keep the hearing open until such time as she appears with the responsive
Or maybe a phone call to her to come in might suffice.
Sure, we'd be happy to do that, Your Honor. And
Judge, if I may, just for the record, I think what counsel is doing here with these subpoenas, especially with.
Well, I think that's kind of relevant information, Mr. Paul.
Your Honor, can't he get that same information from cross-examination of our witness? I mean, if it's talking about a conversation he had with, I mean, why are we going to go through all this when we can have our witness on the stand today?
a way of an offer of proof to that, Your Honor. My investigation has also indicated through people that through Ms. Barrett, I don't even beat around the bush here. Ms. Barrett informed my investigator that Ms. Gaetani took her phone and deleted many, many text messages from Ms. Barrett's phone. So I want to see what's going on with respect to these phones, with respect to what's been evidence that's been destroyed or altered. And that's why this is so important to the defense, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is a simple 209A. It's about one evening in December. They're trying to make this a broad fishing expedition to involve everything else that's going around with this matter. It's unnecessary. We have a witness here who's subject to cross-examination, and you're very able to judge her credibility based on that cross-examination.
I think we should go forward with the hearing. We'll go forward with the hearing. I'll note your objection and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just with respect to the record, Judge, it's the same issues with respect to the subpoena notices taken that I had issued with respect to Ms. Gaetani. There was a schedule of information to be provided, and none of which has been provided, all of which would be simply available in her cell phone. That it's all the same issues. And so she's obviously here, and I'd like to know why the responsive documents have not been provided and what the plaintiff's position is on that. Because we are absolutely entitled to those items, and if they have not already been destroyed, which I think they have, but we're entitled to some responsive document with respect to.
As it pertains to this hearing.
Yes, as it pertains to here, Your Honor, absolutely.
Your Honor, he's asking for communications with police officers and detectives that are involved in the other matter. It's a broad subpoena. It's trying to make this into a circus when this is about one evening. And again, communications between the defendant and my client should be in the defendant's phone if he's really needs those. And also,
You did have those, right?
and
We have those, Your Honor. Those are not what we're seeking. We're seeking communications between the complainant, the plaintiff, and the officers who we contend triggered this incident to get Mr. Kearney arrested and get his bail revoked. The whole thing was engineered, Your Honor. So we
Well,
contend that,
maybe I missed. I thought she was subpoenaed to testify in front of a grand jury. Is that correct?
yes. And I'll refresh it, I'll allude to the framework, the factual framework there, if I may, Your Honor. The factual framework there, Judge, is that on Friday, December 26th, we were in Norfolk Superior Court. Sorry, 22nd. We were in Norfolk Superior Court on Mr. Kearney's arraignment, and at that time, he was relieved of any restrictions whatsoever in terms of stay-away orders, and he was essentially allowed to go back to investigating the Karen Reed murder case. No stay-away orders, no nothing. So he left there, and an hour or two later, our defense investigation has revealed that an hour or two later, Lieutenant Detective Tully was at Ms. Gaetani's house with a grand jury subpoena for essentially no crime. She had no information, no incriminating information for anything.
How do you know that?
Because I'm privy to my client's interactions with her. So there's no criminal behavior whatsoever that was ever engaged in that would be relevant to anything on a case where he's already been indicted on 16 charges. The grand jury investigation is over. We contend this grand jury subpoena was manufactured and given to Ms. Gaetani to make her a witness, just to make her a witness in the case, as a foundation for a witness intimidation charge later. And so what happened was Ms. Gaetani gets this summons for the following Wednesday. Ms. Gaetani gets the summons. She immediately
To appear in front of a grand jury the following Wednesday?
Yes, the following Wednesday, right. And she served that just right after Mr. Kearney gets completely free of any restrictions. And we contend this whole thing is revenge for him being freed up of any restrictions to go back to investigating these cases, exposing these very same officers that are charging him here, which is extremely questionable. In terms
This
of,
has nothing to do with the restraining order.
well, it
That's
does.
right, Judge.
It actually does, Your Honor. And I know it's convoluted, but sometimes it's convoluted, and I'm sorry, and I know the court will hear me and when it's convoluted, and it is. And so he goes over there with this summons, and she then invites him over in contradiction to her statement.
Ms. Gaetani
Yes,
invites who over?
invites Mr. Kearney over and insists that he come over in person to talk about the summons and what to do. And she comes to him for help. And she says to him in the text messages and in their communications, and this is what Mr. Kearney will testify to. So this is just me talking. This is what Mr. Kearney is going to testify to. She tells him that she has been cooperating with the people in the Reed case that are against Mr. Kearney. And she's sorry.
Is this an offer of proof?
Yes, this is an absolute offer.
You have a witness that's going to testify?
Yes, Mr. Kearney.
Okay.
And that she's been cooperating with the people that are aligned against Mr. Kearney relative to the Reed matter. Ms. McCabe, the witnesses that are involved, and the witnesses that are accused of being the actual conspirators in the murder plot. And so she's been working with them, but pretending to still be his friend or his girlfriend or one or the other. It changes. And so she invites him over to makes up this story that she's pregnant and she needs to take some pills to end the pregnancy, et cetera, and that he needs to stay with her all night long. He doesn't want to go. He went there against my advice. He tried to talk to her in the conference room in the lobby of the building, and she got him upstairs to her apartment. And she, in a private setting,
Your
obviously.
Honor, isn't this
Judge,
what
can we?
testimony is
I'm not really
for?
sure
What's
what's
going on
This is
here?
my offer of proof, Judge, for why I need these documents that she either destroyed or is withholding from me today.
Judge.
And so she brings him up there and won't let him leave. Contrary again to her affidavit that he's barging in and insisting on looking at everything. She invited him over, the evidence will show, to do this. She allows him to look at the interactions between her and these investigators, and he's taking notes, writes 5 pages of notes. In the middle of this, they have sexual relations. He says, I'm going home, I gotta go. That's what triggers her, consistent with several times in the past, when he would go home to his family, she would get very angry and upset. Consistent with that pattern, this night she gets very angry and upset. She steals his property, she steals his notes, and she stuffs them down her shirt. And Mr. Kearney does nothing in terms of any domestic violence whatsoever. He calmly speaks with her and says, "Can I please have those back?" Because that's the whole purpose of why she invited him over. He didn't engineer any of this stuff. She won't give it back. She goes in the bedroom. She claims that she took these pills, that he needs to be there to make sure she's okay, because she has 4 children in the house as well at this very time. And he's stuck there. So he sits there, waits till she falls asleep, and leaves at 5 o'clock in the morning when she's asleep, so he can get out of there. That's what the evidence will show from Mr. Kearney's testimony. And the next morning, she doesn't call the police about some supposed domestic violence incident, which, such as it is, Judge, is on their evidence that he pushed her either into the couch or onto the couch, depending on which statement you want to believe at first. But that's the whole incident, that after she stole his property, that he allegedly, in which we certainly adamantly deny, pushed her to the couch, to the soft couch. That's the whole bout of domestic violence here that we're dealing with. So she doesn't call the Medfield police. Lieutenant Detective Tully calls the Medfield police, consistent with our allegation that this whole thing is a setup, engineered.
How did he find out?
She was in touch with him. She was in touch with him when they met with the subpoena. She was in touch with him throughout this whole thing, which is why we're demanding.
So she reached out to Lieutenant Tully?
Yes, which is why we're demanding these communications, as is our absolute right.
You know, you may be entitled to those in the criminal matter. This is a civil matter. This is a 209A hearing. And I think the Commonwealth is not involved in this matter right now. You may be entitled to those, Mr. 𝗏𝗏, in discovery with respect to the criminal proceeding, assault and battery, or domestic. But this is a 209A hearing. It's a civil proceeding. I can hear the testimony of both parties, any other witnesses. I don't think that that's necessary.
See, Judge, so it's a lawful subpoena, properly served. If counsel.
Well, I said, let's hear the evidence.
Sure.
Hear the evidence and make a decision whether I think it's relevant and it's material.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counsel?
Your Honor,
Has everyone been sworn?
everyone's been sworn. We're good to proceed if you are, Your Honor.
Ready to proceed? Okay, everyone can have a seat.
Judge, I'm sorry, there's one other preliminary.
Go ahead, Mr. 𝗏𝗏.
Sorry about that. This proceeding has somehow been allowed to be issued without a sworn statement from the plaintiff. If you look at the 9 or 10 page statement that she wrote, that's an unsworn Medfield.
Actually, she testified in front of me, and I asked her, I believe it's on the record, I asked her whether everything is true and accurate in the statement. I think the record will speak for itself. Was she in front of me after I read the statement? I asked her whether everything was accurate and true in the statement, and she testified yes. So in essence, it is under Isabel's version.
All right, I appreciate.
You can
that,
check the
Your Honor.
record if you look at the record already.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. I don't need to check that record on that.
Okay.
If the court's telling me that, I
Yeah.
certainly would
I recall
believe
saying.
it. Nonetheless, Your Honor, I think that the rules of civil procedure require that motions be supported by a written affidavit. And I would like to have for my papers for the ongoing case, a sworn statement under oath that she signs, at least incorporating that statement or such.
There it is.
Ah, okay.
Second page of the
Yeah, I see it,
affidavit.
please, Judge. I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. You know, it's I know the Commonwealth is. Thank you very much, Judge. I know the Commonwealth is very solicitous of domestic violence complainants, but sometimes it puts a defendant at a disadvantage and makes it very difficult to fight back, but I appreciate that, thank you.
Let me call your first witness. Right here. Right there. Stand right there.
Right, that's fine, yeah.
Sit or stand?
Stand right there.
Call.
Maybe come forward a little. Right there.
Call 𝗬𝗂𝗄𝗃.
Swear.
She's been sworn
Okay.
down.
Mr. Goodrich?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gaetani, please state your name and spell it for the record.
𝗬𝗂𝗄𝗃, 𝗬𝗃𝗂𝗄𝗃.
How old are you, Ms. Gaetani?
37.
And what level of education do you have?
I have 2 college degrees, a bachelor's degree, 4-year degree in psychology. I have a 2-year associate's degree in nursing as well, and my registered nursing license.
Excellent. And do you have any children?
I do, I have 4 children.
How old are they?
12, 5, 3, and 2.
Were you in a relationship with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And approximately when did that relationship start?
About the beginning of September,
And approximately when did that relationship end?
approximately the beginning of December.
So the relationship was roughly 3 months long, is that right?
Correct.
Was the relationship intimate?
Yes, it was.
Did he ever tell you that he loved you?
Yes, he did.
Has he met your kids?
Yes,
Has he been to your house?
yes.
Why did the relationship end?
We had a disagreement about a personal medical issue.
Was that your pregnancy? Is that what the disagreement was about?
Correct.
What was his reaction when you told him that you were pregnant?
Initially?
Yeah.
Nervous?
As time went on, what was how did that develop?
It changed throughout. He was nervous at first, then appeared to be somewhat supportive for a while, and then he learned that I was hesitant about what to do regarding the pregnancy. He became very persuasive in trying to make me make a decision that he wanted me to make.
Did he pressure you into making that decision?
Yes.
Did he ever say anything like he would kill himself if he did not have the procedure?
Yes.
Why did the relationship end?
Relationship ended because of the disagreement over what to do about the pregnancy.
And after you broke up, did the defendant ever harass you?
Yes.
Objection to the characterization.
Sustained to the leading. Maybe rephrase the question, please.
After you broke up, did the defendant ever do anything that concerned you?
Yes.
What?
He began making comments about me on his live YouTube shows and on his social media platforms.
Okay. And did those comments frighten you?
Yes.
Did he ever threaten you with releasing any of your personal information?
Yes.
Did he ever threaten to release sensitive photos of you?
He didn't explicitly threaten to release the photos, but he did, in my opinion, taunt me by sending me screenshots of certain videos between us.
Did he ever send you any confidential documents pertaining to your children?
Yes.
Were you afraid of the defendant's actions?
Yes.
Now I want to discuss the evening of December 23rd. Did the defendant come over that evening?
Yes.
And he came over to talk about a subpoena he received?
Yes.
What was the subpoena, briefly, the subpoena about?
In regards to his pending charges through the Superior Court for witness intimidation.
And was the defendant angry about you receiving the subpoena?
Yes.
Objection, Judge, to the conclusory nature of the
I can-
question.
Why don't you ask her how he,
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
I'll
you're
rephrase,
testifying,
but generally on these kind of hearings,
I know.
So when the defendant arrived at your house, what happened?
When he arrived, he wanted to meet I live in an apartment complex. He wanted to meet in a conference center that I have down the hall of my building. He was nervous that there were bugs in my apartment.
Okay.
Not insects, but
Some kind of
Recording
recording
devices.
devices, thank you. And at some point, did you start discussing the subpoena?
yes.
And what did the defendant ask regarding the subpoena?
He asked Do you want me to fully?
In as many words as you can.
Well, he wanted to know why I was receiving it. He discussed getting me an attorney. Because I did tell him that my phone would likely be subpoenaed and messages between us would be recovered and shown. So he discussed getting me an attorney, said that he would pay for the attorney to prevent that from happening, that he would protect me. He said that he wanted to go through my
Objection,
phone.
Your Honor, it's non-responsive.
Overruled, you may have it. Continue.
He wanted to go through my phone and look at messages between me and another woman that has, I'm trying to think of how to describe her. Should I name her?
No, you can just.
Another woman, and that is related to the case, I guess. And he also wanted to look at any messages between myself and the detectives, and yeah, that's about it.
And did you let him look through your phone?
I did.
Why?
When I initially told him I was not going to let him look at my phone, he told me that he would destroy me and his lawyer would destroy me on the stand if I did end up testifying, that he would bring up embarrassing things from my past and try to humiliate me.
So you were pressured into showing him your phone?
Yes,
Did he take notes while he was looking at your phone?
he did.
After he took notes from looking at your phone, were you intimate with him?
Yes.
And after you had intimate relations with him, what happened?
After that,
Let me rephrase the question, I'm sorry. After you were intimate with him, did the defendant immediately leave or did he stay around for a little while?
he stayed around for a while.
Why did he stay around for a little while?
I took the abortion pills. He said he would stay with me after I took them.
And after you took them, what did he do?
He said, all right, I gotta get going, or something along those lines. I have to leave, I have to get going. Couldn't remember the exact words.
And then were you upset after you said that?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I walked out of my bedroom where we both were standing and into my living room. And I saw his notepad on my couch where he had taken the notes. I then ripped off the pages of notes that he took and crumpled them and put them down my shirt.
And did that upset the defendant?
Yes, it did.
What did he do to you?
He came up from behind me because my back was towards him since he was coming from my bedroom. And at first he didn't know, I think, what I did. He said to me, what did you just do? And then he looked and saw that his notes were not there anymore. He grabbed me by the back of my shoulder to turn me around, and my fist was like this. I believe he thought the notes were in my hand, because then he tried to grab my fist. And in the process, he's saying, give me my notes back, yelling at me to give him the notes. And then when he saw they weren't in my hand, he started yelling some more, what did you do with them? And kind of pushed me in the process of trying to wrestle me for the notes. And my knees were at like the couch level. So he pushed me into the couch and I thereafter fell onto the couch.
And did that hurt?
No,
You were frightened by it?
yes,
And after the argument, did you eventually leave? Did he eventually leave?
eventually.
And sometime the next day you spoke with the police, is that right?
Yes.
And did you tell the police officers that he was physical with you? As you sit here today, are you still in fear of the defendant?
Yes, I am.
No further questions, sir.
Cross-examination.
You called the police, Ms. Gaetani? Who'd you call?
I first called Detective 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃.
When did you first get in communication with Lieutenant Detective Tully?
I believe it was around mid-December.
When did you first meet him?
I first met him at my home.
How did that come about?
Someone had put me in contact with him.
Who was that?
Special Prosecutor 𝗫𝗏,
And when did you start talking to him?
roughly around the same time, I think mid-December.
So you were in touch with the prosecutor of your boyfriend?
Objection, Your Honor. If we're gonna get into the conspiracy stuff, I think you already ruled that we're gonna try to keep this focused on.
No, overrule, I allow someone. Overrule.
So you're in touch with the prosecutor of your boyfriend?
Well, we had broken up by that point. We broke up roughly, I believe the date was December 9th, or somewhere around there.
But you didn't really break up, did you? Because you were together after that, you had sexual relations after that, correct?
Once we did, but we were no longer in a relationship.
So you revisited the relationship, it's fair to say.
I wouldn't say revisit the relationship because it was only sexual at that time.
So sexual relations, but didn't engage in anything outside of sexual relations?
Specifically,
So I'm just trying to be polite. I mean, did you revisit the relationship with Mr. Kearney or just have sex or what was it?
I don't understand the question.
Why don't you rephrase the question, Mr. Graham?
So how many times did you have sexual relations with Mr. Kearney after December?
I believe it was once.
How many times did you send text messages to him?
Probably several.
Probably hundreds, right?
I wouldn't know. I don't count the messages.
Well, so just getting back to what counsel asked you about, you calling the police the next morning. What time did you call the police?
I don't recall.
Was it, and you didn't call 911, correct?
No, I did not.
So you didn't even call the Medfield police, did you?
I spoke with Medfield Police.
But only after Lieutenant Tully called the Medfield police, right?
Correct.
And was that in your presence?
That the phone call that when he called them?
Yeah.
No.
So let's just get the timeline right here. You wake up the next morning. What's the first thing you do relative to Mr. Kearney and what happened the night before?
I called Detective Brian Tully.
And was that a prearranged plan that you were going to call him after you had him come over?
No.
Did you agree to do that prior to him, Mr. Kearney, coming over? So let's rewind a little more. The day before, Lieutenant Detective Tully comes over with a subpoena, correct?
Correct.
And did you know that he was coming to see you?
No, I did not.
When he got to your house, was he alone or was he with anybody?
He was with another detective.
And what was his name?
I cannot recall.
And did they announce themselves as far as why they were there?
I wasn't home when they arrived.
When did you first see him?
They got there when I was gone. I was picking up a rental car. So I got home and saw them at my front lobby.
And what was the interaction? What did you say? What did he say?
I said hello. They asked if we could talk, if there was somewhere private we could talk. So we went to the, not the business center, but there's a larger like common area next to the business center in my complex.
And what did you talk about? What was the first thing that was said when you sat down?
I don't recall the first thing that was said.
What do you recall?
I recall that I said I was very nervous about getting involved with the pending case with Aidan, and I was very nervous about if he found out I were to testify, what he would do to retaliate against me.
In terms of testifying, I mean, he'd already been indicted, right, and arraigned.
Correct.
And did they explain to you why they were giving you a subpoena?
Judge, again, I object and just say that we're bearing a little bit off of the reason we're here. I'd ask that we keep it relevant.
Overrule, unallowed. Next question.
Did they say why they're giving you a subpoena to an investigation that's already been resolved in the grand jury?
They said that I am a witness and that I would need to testify.
They said that that would protect you, didn't they?
No, they did
That
not.
if they made you a witness, that would protect you from Mr. Kearney, right?
No, absolutely not.
They didn't say that. No,
No.
no officer said that. That's your
No,
testimony?
no officer ever said that.
Okay. And once they served you with the subpoena, what did they say about what you were going to testify about?
Any,
Objection, relevant objection.
In hearsay, Your Honor.
Well, hearsay is admissible in these 209A hearings.
It goes to our defense, Your Honor, that this whole thing's a setup, that she actually had nothing to testify about.
Overruled, allowed. Go ahead.
He told me that there was going to be another grand jury convening and that I would need to testify in front of that grand jury.
Did you ever prep with them for your testimony?
No, because that was the first I learned of the summons.
Okay, so summons was for the following Wednesday, right?
I don't recall the date,
So it was for the week, it was about a week away, right?
probably.
And did you ever meet with them to prep your testimony?
That was the first day I got the summons, so I had never prepped with them.
From then until the date, did you ever meet with them to prep your testimony?
Until what date?
The date on this.
What date are you referring to? If it's anything
The date on the
before this
subpoena.
hearing, this incident, I'll allow it. If it's anything after this incident, it's excluded, okay? Next question.
Just trying to catch up to you, Your Honor, sorry.
Anything up till the 20, what was the date? She contacted the, I believe it was the 26th. Is that right, counsel?
She contacted, sorry, Your Honor, she contacted the detective Tully on the 24th.
24th. Anything up to the 24th, I'll allow. Anything else is
So Judge, if I could make an offer, the reason I'm questioning that is because the fact that she was served a subpoena, you would think that if it was a legitimate investigation rather than engineering.
No,
an incident.
it's not relevant to this hearing today. This is a civil hearing. It may be relevant to something else, another hearing that's between the parties, but it's not relevant to this civil proceeding.
All right, thank you, Judge. Please know.
Anything up to the 24th of December.
So on the 24th of December, you received a subpoena. Sorry, on the 22nd, you received a subpoena, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then how long after you received the subpoena and the detectives left, were you in touch with Mr. Kearney?
I don't recall. I know, I think I spoke with him that night, but I don't recall.
37 minutes.
You may.
So isn't it true that you called Mr. Kearney at about 4 p.m. on the 22nd? Only an hour, let's say, plus or minus, after Lieutenant Detective Tully and his partner.
Could be correct, again, I don't know the exact time.
So you don't remember the details of this, did you?
I remember calling him, but I don't know exact time.
So it was the same day though, right? It wasn't at 10 o'clock at night, it wasn't dark out, it was the same day, right?
Correct.
Okay, so Tully leaves you a subpoena for a grand jury investigation next week. By the way, did you ever testify, just yes or no?
No, it's being rescheduled.
So it was canceled, so you never testified.
No, I did not.
Okay. Have you ever been back in touch with them about arranging a date?
I have been in touch with them, but we have not figured out a new date yet because of the court dates that I'm currently dealing with Aidan now.
So it's just floating out there with no date, right? Okay. So you get the subpoena. Did you make any sort of a plan with these detectives to contact Aidan about it?
No,
Did they tell you whether to contact him or not?
I asked them if I was allowed to tell him about it, and they said yes.
So they said yes. They didn't say, gee, well, since you've had so many problems with him, you should probably not contact him. They didn't say anything like that?
No.
They said it was okay to contact him?
They didn't, they said that it was okay if I asked if it was okay, if I could, and they said yes.
And they didn't discourage you, did they? They said it was okay?
They said yes.
Did you tell them that you were going to contact him?
No.
So they leave, you get on the phone with Aidan and you tell him what happened, right? And then there was some texting that happened after that?
Yeah.
And just to summarize it, the texting was that you were sorry that you got involved with this. You were sorry that you spied on him for people that are antagonistic to him in the Reed case, and then you just wanted to get out
Mr.
of the
Randall,
whole
can you
thing.
ask one question at a time? I mean,
Sure,
one
I'm
at a
sorry.
time. Yeah, that's
Sorry.
3 questions.
Sure. The gist of your communications with him was that you were sorry for taking the position against him and that you just wanted to get out of it somehow, right?
Could you rephrase the question?
Sure. you contacted him and you had a change of heart back to Mr. Kearney and you wanted to communicate with him and you told him you were sorry about getting involved with the other side, right?
I told him I was sorry, but it was in relation to something else.
And what was it in relation to?
He was angry that I had been in contact with a woman he is not fond of,
And who's that?
𝗕𝗵𝗲.
And what's the gist of your knowledge of the relationship between Ms. Peter and Mr. Kearney?
As far as I know, they have had an ongoing feud over several years. She also has a YouTube show and they go at it with each other. I don't really, that's all really I know. I know that they argue a lot and they have different court proceedings with each other.
And when you broke up with Mr. Kearney near the 9th of December thereabouts, you then started to give Ms. Peter information?
Judge, objection to
Sustained,
relevance.
sustained.
Counsel wants to engage in discovery.
I said sustained.
Thank you, Judge.
So just to get back to this this evening, you invited Mr. Kearney over to talk more in person, right?
I sent him a picture of the summons, and that first night, that was a Friday, the 22nd, he said that he was not going to come over, that you, Mr. 𝗿𝗏, his attorney, had advised him not to. And then he came over the next day, the 23rd. He wanted to talk about it in person.
So we agreed that you invited him over to do this, right?
I wouldn't say I had invited him, it was a mutual decision. On Friday, I mean. Saturday, sorry, Saturday. Friday was the first night where he was not, I did invite him over on Friday.
So on 12/22, you sent him a text that says, "Can you come over tonight?"
Yes, I got my days mixed up. Friday, I did invite him over. That's the night he did not come though.
Now, that's different than what your affidavit says, isn't it?
I don't recall.
Did you look at your affidavit in preparation for
I did,
today?
but I do not have it in front of me.
You don't remember that you said that he, words to the effect that he barged in and he demanded to see it, he demanded to come over and interrogate you?
Objection, Your Honor, is
Sustained, the affidavit speaks for itself, Mr. Ray.
All right, we'll go through it.
Your Honor, just to note an objection that we were handed text messages and a flash drive about 5 minutes before coming up here. We
You
haven't
need
had
time?
chance-
You need time to review those?
Well, it depends on how much Mr. 𝗿𝗏's going to get into it. I mean,
5 minutes before the hearing starts, Mr. Ray, you give him.
Judge, I just met these gentlemen this morning. I had no idea they existed.
but it was literally here. This is what I'm going to get into. There's a million text messages. I'll see up there. That was the kind
We'll
of.
take a recess to allow you to review this. This case will stand recess.
All rise.
Let me see what I have.
May I inquire?
Thank you.
Back on the record, Gaetani,
Yeah.
Hardy.
May I inquire?
You had a chance to.
Yes, we have. Unfortunately, I had some issues opening them, but I got the past 10 minutes I was able to review, and I got through about 60% of it.
Okay.
I mean, just for the record on that, I mean, she's the moving party. She had a summons with my address and phone number and checking. She already had my card before that. You know, if they wanted to look at this stuff before today, they could have reached out to me. And I didn't know they even existed until this morning. So I would just want you to think that I was holding on to something that I could have given to them.
Right, fair enough.
Thank you.
They continue, Mr. Bernard.
Thank you. So, Ms. Gaetani, we were talking about your texting with Mr. Kearney on 12/22, okay? And I have it here, and you can look at it, and if you want me to approach and show you, you can do that, but I'm just gonna try to question you on it. But, you know, your memory is in and out, so if you want me to show you, I'll be happy to show you, okay? So, at about 2:45 p.m., Mr. Kearney reached out to you on the 22nd and said, hey, sorry I missed your call. Did you watch, meaning did you watch his arraignment that morning? Do you remember that?
Yes,
Okay, so had you been served with this subpoena by then?
I don't believe so. No, I have not. I did
Okay.
not.
And you mentioned that, you know, you were busy and you said congratulations about the arraignment, very happy for you, right? And he says thanks. Remember that?
Right.
Then you say to him, I really have to talk to you though about something. I'll be tied up for the next couple hours though. Remember saying that?
I do.
And that is a reference to meeting with the police?
I believe so.
So you were texting him this right before you went into your meeting with the police?
I was in the main lobby of my complex getting my mail, and when I saw the detectives, and I was simultaneously texting with Aidan.
And when Aidan asks you about what are you tied up about, right? And you say, don't text me until I call you back, right?
Yes,
And you don't want him to be on the record, so to speak, texting you when you're talking to the police? Is that what that's about?
no,
So you say, don't text me until I call you back. He says, why? And you don't answer him. You just say again, don't call or text, right?
correct,
And why was that?
because I was going to be meeting with the detectives, and I didn't want my phone going off. I wouldn't be able to take any calls while I was meeting.
And then he says, why again? And you don't explain again. You just say, just don't, right?
Correct,
And he thinks that's shady, right? He says back, shady.
correct.
And it was shady, wasn't it?
Define shady.
This whole thing was shady because it was a setup to get Mr.
Objection,
Kearney's
Your
bail
Honor.
revoked, right?
Sustained, sustained.
Withdrawn. After he says shady, you invite him over, right?
This is the 22nd we're referring to?
Yep.
Yes,
You say to him, can you come over tonight, right?
yes,
And that's on the 22nd, right?
correct.
You're not afraid of him.
At that point, no,
He's never laid a hand on you.
no, he had not.
You invite him over. And but your testimony is that you've been broken up since the 9th of December, right?
Correct,
Now you want him to come over.
correct.
Why'd you want him to come over?
To discuss the summons.
Why didn't you just text with him or communicate with him? If he was doing all these horrible things to you, putting things on the internet, threatening you, demanding this, demanding that, why not just send him the screenshots, the text messages?
Because I believe it's easier to talk to somebody in person, have a conversation.
Because you still wanted to use this subpoena to get back together with him, right?
False.
Well, you could have texted, you could have added to the thousands of pages of text, pictures, sexting, everything you've communicated on the Facebook text record, but you chose to use this subpoena to have him come over tonight, in your words, right?
No.
Well, isn't that what you just said? You said, can you come over tonight? Because you wanted to discuss the subpoena,
To
right?
discuss it. I didn't use him to have him come back. I wanted to discuss this in person.
So I'm just gonna echo those words again. You just said, I wanted to discuss the subpoena in person, right?
Correct.
That was your testimony just now.
Yes.
That's different than your affidavit, isn't it?
Which part?
where you paint a picture in your affidavit that Mr. Kearney is the one that's desperate to.
Objection, Your
Could
Honor.
you refer the affidavit?
Yes, Your Honor.
For the record? Do you have a copy of the affidavit?
I do, Your Honor.
Start on the bottom of page 4, Your Honor. I messaged Aidan a picture of my summons.
Wait a minute, 1 second. Where are we?
Bottom of page 4, Your Honor. Second line up from the bottom.
You there, counsel?
One moment, Your Honor. All set, thank you.
So up until then in your affidavit, you were talking about how you were afraid of him revealing information about you, right?
Correct.
And at that point, you had betrayed his trust, right?
Could you rephrase that?
Yeah, do you know what betrayed his trust means?
I don't know.
Objection, Your Honor. You can ask the question without harassing her.
You went to the other side against him and you communicated with them and you fed the police, his rival, Ms. Peter, the witnesses that he say are the actual murder conspirators in the Reed case. You were cooperating with them and feeding them information on Mr. Kearney, right?
Objection to relevance.
Sustained.
Thank you.
So I'm just explaining the betray the trust, Judge.
No, I know. One question at a time, Mr. Bradel, please. I can only.
I'm sorry. So you betrayed his trust.
I don't believe I betrayed his trust. I believe I was venting to Ms. Peter. I'm a grown woman and I have a right to have another female friend to vent about my relationship.
Okay, so we'll leave it there. So then you're afraid that because you did that, that he would retaliate, right?
Correct.
And perhaps another word for retaliating or threatening to do something is that he's trying to defend himself from what he found out was your attacks on him. Isn't that another way of putting it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So you say, bottom of page 4, Your Honor. I messaged Aidan a picture of my summons because I thought that if he knew they were forcing me to testify, then he wouldn't retaliate against me. So you had ulterior motives?
No.
Then you write, he wanted to meet up to discuss my summons in person. That's a lie, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Your text message is literally, can you come over tonight? Correct?
Are you referring to the 22nd?
Yes.
I did clarify this already on the 22nd. I asked him to come over.
I think the testimony was it was mutual the next day.
But it's fair to say that you started the notion of having him come in person, right?
Yes, and when he said he would not, at your advice, I said, fine. I have a text message where I said, fine.
You said more
And then
than
the
fine,
next
didn't
day, I did, and then the next day,
you? What else did you say?
Your Honor, can my client testify, please, without
Yes, the
constant
question is,
interruptions?
Go ahead. Continue.
the next day was when he willingly reached out again and wanted to meet up. And I did say it was mutual, because it was.
Well, you didn't say fine when he said that on advice of counsel, I shouldn't go over there. You said, fine, that's your decision. Then if you're looking out for yourself, I have to look out for myself. I won't be calling Tim. He says, I'm just doing what my lawyer told me to do. And you said, yup, and now I have to get one and listen to mine, and they're going to find out about the baby. That's what you said, right?
Well, those sentences were broken up. I said those first part first, and then I said, and by the way, they're also going to find out about the baby because Detective Tully and the other detective, whose name I can't remember, when they came to my house, they asked me why I was still in communication with Aidan, and I told them it was a personal matter that I did not want to discuss.
So you thought that it would help you at the time to get Aidan to your place if you threatened to tell him that you were going to reveal the existence of a baby.
No, I was warning him, just so you know, they are going to find out because they were asking me questions about why we were still in contact already.
He says who, and you say grand jury. Tully and the other guy asked us, and then it just stops, right?
Correct.
Then, that's it for the 22nd. So it's fair to say on the 22nd, you invited him over and it didn't work out, right?
He did not come over, correct?
And that made you mad
No, it did not.
because you threatened to get a lawyer and go after him,
I
right?
didn't threaten to get a lawyer. I said I would have to get a lawyer too.
Then on the 23rd, you initiate contact at around 12:19 p.m. Out of the blue, you contact him and you say to him, I don't deserve you to love me.
False.
Yeah, I approach.
There were many messages before that.
Yeah, I approach.
You should ask it. We were gonna talk about the messages leading up to that, or we're just gonna go cherry pick?
Well, Mr. Randall, you said that was the first message.
This is
You
all I
said-
have, Your Honor. This is what and I have an exhibit.
When you
to
say
give
that
you.
this is all you have, what do you mean?
This is the text string. There's no other message.
Well, your client would have the text, right?
This is it. I have it right here.
Well, apparently he says, counsel is saying there was a
I disagree. I don't have anything else.
Are there text messages leading up to it?
My understanding is that the defendant has a history of manipulating text messages and chains to make it look like, to fit the story that he's telling.
Well, your client has a cell phone, right?
Yeah, I have not fully collected her cell phone and reviewed every single message from her phone, but her testimony.
She just testified there was something leading up to that.
Exactly, thank you.
Mr. Bradel, her testimony was something leading up to that.
Yeah, sure. And
Your question was it the first text message?
Absolutely, Judge. The suggestion that anything's been messed with is completely rejected. It's completely false. And I have an entire
Well, Mr.
string.
Goodrich or Mr. Pollock, have you had a chance to look at her cell phone?
Your Honor, did you share this with me on the zip drive?
Yes.
Okay, I just haven't seen these ones yet. What folder is it in?
Well, she's the moving party, Judge. So all this stuff about, oh, we're not ready, they're the moving party.
No,
They didn't
no,
contact me.
it doesn't
So
mean
what
ready.
do you want? The suggestions that we're doing something to
No,
hide
I'm not,
something
there's no
are
suggestion.
offensive.
They just have a right to look at what you're
Absolutely.
approaching her with.
Absolutely. And they can look all they want.
Your Honor, we'll let her testify to what is true or not regarding the conversation. I haven't had a chance to review this message yet, but
Don't you have them in front of you?
You have the spreadsheet. It's on the spreadsheet.
thank you. This is not the easiest thing to navigate, Your Honor, so he sent me a spreadsheet. I don't have what he's looking at right now unless there's links in the spreadsheet.
I trust they have their client's phone, so I'm giving them things that are their clients.
So you would approach her with.
So Judge, I could just lead it.
I think her last statement on the record was that there was something leading up to that.
Sure.
The text message.
Let me try it this way, Judge. There was no texting leading up to that. You may have spoken with him on
No,
the
there were
phone.
many,
prior.
many text messages leading up to that one that you just mentioned. Many.
Okay, so
I can tell
do you have them? Let's see them.
I don't have my phone on.
In fact, you were subpoenaed to bring them here and you didn't do that,
I
did
can
you?
testify to the messages.
Can you show us?
I don't have my phone with me right now, but I can testify to them.
Go ahead.
Do you have any
Go ahead.
proof of it?
Go ahead.
There was a lengthy conversation before that message about I don't deserve for you to love me, about with Aidan interrogating me about if I had been in touch with Miss 𝗵𝗄𝗄𝗃.
Just so we're clear, you're talking about a phone conversation.
No, I am talking about, or might have been on Facebook Messenger. It was in some sort of text, either Facebook Messenger or regular text. I believe it was Facebook Messenger.
And what was said?
Many things. It was a very lengthy conversation where he was accusing me of, he had a documentary that was supposedly supposed to be put out by Netflix and it was canceled. And he was accusing me of getting it canceled because of information that I gave to 𝗵𝗄𝗃.
Did that happen?
No,
Did you give information against him to 𝗵𝗃?
against him. I spoke about our relationship to Kate in private, venting about our relationship, not supplying her with information to whatever you're ready to do.
Well, let's try it this way. You gave Ms. 𝗵𝗃 information that put Mr. Kearney in a bad light?
I suppose so.
So you're communicating with Mr. Kearney on texting through a phone and through Facebook Messenger
This night,
on the 23rd?
on the 23rd, I can't recall. I don't, the majority of it was on Messenger.
So that's a yes.
Your Honor, are we gonna get to something relevant to the evening of December 23rd?
So it's fair to say that in the Facebook Messenger items, that's where you admit that you've been talking to other people on the other side against Mr.
Facebook
Kearney.
Messenger messages were, the majority of them were Aidan trying to make me admit that I'd been talking to Kate. And then after a lengthy period of time and him badgering me about talking to Kate, I finally got very upset and we had a phone conversation. And this was after he had sent me a link that I opened, which contained confidential, very sensitive information about my children that are non-public documents that he admitted to getting by using another attorney friend login credentials for mass courts. So that is why
let
I
me just ask you
cried.
another question, because this isn't a situation where you're allowed to just give a narrative unless
Oh,
the
I
court
thought
says so.
that's what you were doing.
So I'd like to just ask you the next question, if I may.
Sure.
So in this Facebook Messenger texting, you apologize to him, right?
I believe so.
You said, "I'm sorry this all happened," right?
Yes.
And Mr. Kearney is very gracious about it, isn't he?
I would have to see the messages.
So I'll just
Judge, I've lost track of what date we're in and what the relevance is here. I'd object to this line of
Where
questioning.
are
That's what happens when you come into a case the morning of the case, Judge, so it's not my problem.
I'm just asking that you clarify his questions. I'm getting lost.
Before you examine a witness on a document, you have to tell counsel what page you're on or what you're referring to.
So Judge, I've given counsel all these, I've mentioned that it's 12:23, so all they have to do is go to 12:23 and they'll have the same screen that I have,
Okay. 12:20.
12:23. In Facebook messages. And counsel can, certainly address whatever parts they want, and I don't want to, if you're taking a lot of the court's time, I'm just trying to cut to the chase. And Mr. Kearney says to you, and this is along the lines of my suggestion, he's being very gracious. He says, "And if you confess to me that you've done all this, I would forgive you. I know you're expecting me to be the person Kate told you is me. And years ago I may have been, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm not vengeful. I don't care how badly you wronged me. It hurt the part about Allison and my mom becoming public. It hurt when 𝗙𝗏cy did it too, but life is too short for grudges."
Your Honor, objection again to relevance.
Well, Judge, if I may, she's saying that he's hostile and angry and she's scared of him. And he's saying, "I forgive you, it's okay,"
Your Honor, this
things
is
that are inconsistent with that.
related to the incident of abuse. This is all stuff that's happened before the incident.
This is
It's leading up to it.
𝗫𝗏𝗧𝗏.
It's overruled. They have it.
He says, "It's really okay if you want to tell me the truth. We can talk about it and I won't hold it against you. I don't want to be your enemy." And that's when you said, "I'm sorry this has all happened," right?
Correct.
He's gracious, he's conciliatory, he's not threatening. There's no reason to be afraid of Mr. Kearney, right?
There was, because he did threaten me with private confidential documents about my children. Just because you say, "I'm gonna release these documents," that's not a threat, doesn't mean it's not a threat.
But if he is in need of defending himself against your betrayal, isn't he entitled to that?
To publish documents he has no legal access to.
If
on the
they
internet for all
destroy
his
your
use.
credibility, it certainly is, isn't it?
No, it's illegal for him to get those documents in the first
Where's it illegal?
He used.
Objection,
another-
Judge. She's not an attorney. She doesn't know what's legal and
Next
not
question.
legal.
So then I move to strike the testimony. So
As I understand, only lawyers have right of access to mass courts.
yes, Your Honor. So just for the record on that, Judge, I think there's a bit of a conflation there, okay? In the sense that mass courts wouldn't have sealed or impounded or confidential documents on it. Mass courts is just a way for certain people that are allowed to get into it to access the court dockets, but it's really just a reflection of what you would get when you went to the clerk's office. And so I don't want the court, I know the court certainly knows this, but I just want to suggest for the record that I think the witness is conflating access to public documents through mass courts with going to the courthouse and getting them when you would absolutely be entitled to do so. And Mr. Kearney is an investigative journalist who's very good at what he does. And he would, when he's attacked by someone, he has every right, as we all do, to go and get documents that he could use to defend himself. And that's what's happening here. Because she happens to know something about a journalist having access to mass courts, and he's certainly not the only journalist probably in this room who has access to mass courts.
Is it your argument that he went to her home against your advice to get information in his defense against this witness?
No, Your Honor, no, I'm saying that I'm addressing her statement that she's afraid of him because of this stuff. She created the situation by betraying his trust, by going to these people and spilling all this invective about him to them to use against him. So she's claiming that she's claiming she's afraid of him, Your Honor, and she's here inviting him to the house and apologizing, and Mr. Kearney is acting in the text messages completely inconsistent with the idea that he's a threatening, horrible person when he's like, I forgive you, it's okay, tell the truth. These are the things in their text stream that he's telling her. Completely contradicts, we contend, her affidavit.
Okay, next question.
Thank you. So you said, I'm sorry this has all happened. And then he says, do you want to talk about it? I promise I won't be mad at you. Right?
Correct.
Deserve you to love me. Texting, right?
Can you repeat that?
At 12:19 p.m. on 12/23, you're now texting, and that's where you say to him, the first text of the day is, I don't deserve you to love me, right?
I can't recall if we had switched to text at that point. I have to see.
Do you want to see it? Sure. May I approach you?
You have that, counsel?
Yes. Thank you. So we agree that the first text of the day is 12:19 p.m. You say to him, I don't deserve you to love me, right?
Correct, but just to clarify, it's 12:19 a.m. Like we had been talking up until midnight, so it's not like a new thread. We've just continued our conversation
So
from Messenger.
I can show it to you again, but the text stream says 12:19 p.m. Does that refresh your memory at all?
Can I see it one more time?
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't look at the.
It's perfectly fine. May I approach, John? Go ahead.
Oh, yes, okay, there were similar messages in the.
So we agree it's 12:19 p.m., right?
Yes, correct.
I don't deserve you to love me, and then you say, I'm so sorry, right?
Correct.
And then he responds, maybe not, meaning maybe you don't deserve to love him, but I do. I believe in forgiveness, and holding on to hate makes me a worse person. I cannot help but feel empathy for you I don't expect you to understand. I believe that you are truly sorry. I believe you would take it back if you could. Right?
Correct.
Meaning the betrayal.
I think that's subjective, but sure.
So then you text back a long paragraph, right?
I don't know.
For texting anyway, as far as texting goes, about 10 lines. You say, in response to him saying, I believe you are truly sorry, I believe you'd take it back, you say, I am and I would. You are sorry and you would take it back, right?
Yes, I said.
Now, why would you take back what you did with respect to 𝗕𝗏𝗏 and the police and everything else?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
I have loved you and still do, right? That's what you said.
Yes.
I know there's no excuse. I was hurt and angry and also very scared and felt desperate. I'm not a demon. You say some things, and if council wants to put the rest of it in, they can certainly do it, but I'm just going to go down in the interest of time to halfway down the message. Everything that's going on scared me, and I felt like
Are these in evidence?
I have a thumb drive, Judge. I'm going to offer, yes. Everything that's going on scared me, and I felt like I had no one to turn to or confide in or even vent to. I know now I made a big mistake talking to her, meaning 𝗕𝗏𝗏, right?
Correct.
But my feelings were always real. I'm so sorry. And then you say something to get him over to your house, right?
I don't know.
You said, but I think we should save anything else for in person.
Correct.
So you gave him some, and now you're saying, come on over for the rest, right?
I'm saying it's easier to speak about it in person instead of typing long text messages.
And then he said, agreed in person. He agreed with your invitation, correct?
Correct.
You're the first person on the 23rd, just like you were the first person on the 22nd to say, come over.
Incorrect. We had a phone conversation, I believe, prior to this message.
And when was that?
I just said I believe it was prior to this text message.
And Mr. Kearney's demeanor and graciousness were displayed in those conversations as well, weren't they?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, so there's no memorial of these conversations, correct?
Not that I am aware of.
And you didn't bring your phone, even though you got the subpoena on Friday, right?
No, I don't have my phone with me.
So we don't have any way to look at or test your claim on that, right?
Your Honor, she's testifying about a telephone conversation.
Right. Why don't you ask her with the telephone conversation?
And these phone conversations were how many, first of all?
I don't recall.
And when were they?
I just said I believe it was prior to that text message.
And after, it's fair to say that after all of the discussion back and forth on the phone, is your testimony now, on Facebook Messenger and on texting, the only records we have are you inviting him over on the 22nd, and he says, no, advice of counsel. And then you on the 23rd, the only thing we have to look at is you inviting him over, but I think we should save anything else for in person, right?
I can't recall because I don't have the messages like my phone in front of me.
Yeah, approach her.
I thought this has been asked and answered.
But she just said that she couldn't recall.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just going to invite your attention to the bottom, but I think we should save it.
Right, but I said you asked prior to this if there were more conversations about him coming over. You're not gonna scroll down?
My question is, in terms of the written record, all we have,
But you didn't scroll down so I could see the written records.
we'll get to that. But I'm-
Council will have a chance to ask you questions after Mr. Gregerson.
We'll get to the rest of it, but I'm just saying, up until now, on the 23rd, the written record from the texting and Facebook is, you invite him both days to come over, right?
The second day, as I said, it was a mutual decision.
It was a mutual decision. So the written record just shows that you're talking about it, and Mr. Kearney hasn't said anything about, I want to come over.
He did on the phone.
He did on the phone. The part of the voluminous record that we don't have and we can't verify, right?
Well, it's kind of argumentative. This is
I'll withdraw the
cross-examination.
question. So it's fair to say that the written record that we have shows only you inviting him over. Is that a fair statement?
I don't think that's fair because I can't scroll down and see the other messages prior to that.
You can, well, you're the moving party now. So you have
But
your
you're asking me, I'm
information.
giving you my answer. That's my answer.
So
I don't know what else you want me to say. I don't know because I can't see them.
isn't it true that in your affidavit, you say that you want him to leave you alone and not bother you, right?
Which date are we referring to? Because there were several times after we broke up where I did ask him to leave me alone and stop talking about me on his live shows, and I just wanted to move on with my life. But then when he wouldn't, we went back and forth. So there's a lot of different conversations.
Sure. So if that's the state of affairs, then you get a subpoena, then you're sorry, then you love him, then you don't deserve to be loved by him. You invite him over on the 22nd and you invite him over on the 23rd. All that's correct, right?
Except the last part, we said it was a mutual decision on the 23rd, and I was very scared after he threatened me with those confidential documents about my children and releasing them. So yes, I did want to talk to him in person, and I did say I was sorry because I wanted to say anything he wanted me to hear to prevent him from releasing those documents.
But that's not what you say, is it? You say things like, I don't deserve you to love me, meaning I love you, right?
I said anything at that point
Okay, so let's get to that. You're saying anything that comes to mind at this point?
about the interaction with 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗏, how he was angry about that and wanted me to apologize.
So what you're saying is that you're a person that will say untruths as they see, as you
Objection,
see
Your Honor.
fit
This is
to
about,
fit the
Sustained,
particular
sustained.
situation.
Sustained. Next question.
So was it not true what you said?
With what?
That you love him, you don't deserve, he doesn't deserve you, or I don't deserve you to love me?
I do not believe that I did anything wrong in talking to 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗏.
I'm not asking what you believe,
But I'm
I'm
saying,
asking,
as far as apologizing to him for that part, I did not believe I had to say that I was sorry.
so is it fair to say that you're manipulating him here?
No. I think I was being manipulated by being threatened with, when it comes to my children and private information about my children, being threatened to have that released.
But don't you
And
think
another
someone
idea.
deserves to try to defend themselves when they're betrayed and they believe that it's unfair and not accurate?
Objection.
Sustained.
Can I just have one more, please?
You may.
And with the messages between yourself and Ms. Peter with respect to the betrayal, and with any messages between you and Tully and Noah,
I
right?
did not know before he came over that he was going to demand to go through my phone and my messages.
That's the whole purpose of you inviting him over, was that you wanted him to help you get out of it. Isn't that right?
Incorrect.
You said it was a mistake, right?
With regards to what?
Cooperating with 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 and the people that,
You're using the word cooperate, but I was speaking and then you.
giving them information, giving his rival, people that want to destroy him, information. Isn't that a betrayal? Can we just encapsulate it in one word?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
So you said that you wanted to undo it, right?
Undo what?
You said that you wish you could take it back,
Correct.
right? And the reason you wish you could take it back was because it was a betrayal.
Those are your words, not mine.
I'm asking if that's accurate.
I don't believe I betrayed him.
So, did you lie to him
About what?
about being pregnant?
No.
So you were pregnant from Mr. Kearney. Is that your testimony? Yes?
I said yes.
Did you ever produce any sort of proof of that?
Yes.
Did you send him a picture of a pregnancy test?
Yes.
You've been looking at counsel. Do you need a minute to
Because I
speak
don't
with
believe I
counsel?
should have to talk about my personal medical information, but
So you sent Mr. Kearney a picture of a pregnancy test that was from May of 2023, didn't you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The pregnancy test picture was a screenshot of a pregnancy test from well before you were ever with Mr. Kearney. Isn't that correct?
Objection, Judge, relevance.
It's relevant to this line of questioning.
So Judge, the offer of proof is that Ms. Gaetani sent Mr. Kearney a picture of a pregnancy test, right? Because Mr. Kearney didn't believe that she was pregnant and that she was using the pregnancy to manipulate him into coming over, not leaving, staying with her, and manipulating him all sorts of ways with respect
When
to.
was this test?
So,
Text message sent?
sure. So the text message was sent, if I could just have one moment, Judge, 12/8, it was sent to him.
The day before they broke up?
Yes, 12/8. And it is a simple thing to do. If you look at, sorry, 12/9. If you look at the metadata of the photograph, which shows when it was made, and anyone can just click on it and see it. And it was made in May of 2023. It was a fake representation to Mr. Kearney that these tests showed she was pregnant by him, when in fact these were old tests from May of 2023.
That's good. I'll overrule that question.
So, Ms. Gaetani, isn't it true that you used a photograph of old pregnancy tests from May 2023 to trick Mr. Kearney into thinking you were pregnant by him in November, December of 2023?
No, I did not try to trick him. No,
Did you do that or not?
no, I did not try to trick him.
My question is, did you present those photographs to Mr.
Yes.
Kearney?
I presented the photographs.
Okay, so we agree that you deceived him. You presented photographs from May of 2023 showing that there was a positive pregnancy test, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Well, where did you get these pregnancy tests? Do you need a moment to talk to counsel? Judge, I have no objection. She's trying to speak with counsel. That's fine with me.
No, if you need a moment, otherwise you get, okay. Might we just step out here?
Okay.
That's fine. Thanks.
Mr. Morales, have to step back. If he says he doesn't admit to the facts, I'm not going to push him through it. Mr. Cradle, what's the relevance of this?
Now, in response to you saying that you were pregnant to Mr. Kearney, Mr. Kearney said that he wanted to take responsibility, get custody, and be involved if you were in fact pregnant, right?
Well, his response has changed quite a few times over the course of the time that we spoke about my pregnancy.
Mr. Cradle, what's the relevance of this line of questioning? I know I've been giving you a lot of leeway here,
Sure.
but I think we have to get up to the date of the incident.
Because it directly contradicts her affidavit, Your Honor, that he was hostile and angry to her when, and again, it's sort of like the other one where I said that he was gracious instead of angry and hostile to her. Here, she's saying that she's pregnant and she's already implied to this court that he's kind of a deadbeat about it or just is angry about it or hostile. And that's what contributes to the hostility against her in this domestic case. And it probably falls under the umbrella of being able to present a full picture of the relationship, Your Honor. So I would ask just for a little bit more leeway on it.
All right, next question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this also is 22nd of December.
On the Facebook Messenger.
Facebook Messenger, yeah. You say to him relative to this topic of him wanting to be involved with the pregnancy, you say, what part of I don't want you involved don't you get? And don't worry, you will see in due time. And he says, it doesn't matter if you want me involved, Lindsay. If I was the father of your child, I would have legal custodial rights. Do you remember that exchange?
I don't. I like this.
I'm just going to object, Judge, on relevance grounds.
Overruled, no, allowed.
Yeah. Can't answer your questions. Have you seen
Did he read it right? Is that what you're asking, whether you read the text right?
it? Did you read that correctly?
I read the text message.
I'm sorry. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah.
Do you want to take a look because I'm going to question you about the rest of it?
You know, both counsel, I'll review whatever you submit into the evidence. If there's a thumb drive with respect to text messages back and forth between the parties, if the counsel stipulate to that, I'll review those and
We
change
can
it.
speed this process up. We'd stipulate.
Change and move along.
Sure, Judge. I gave a copy of the thumb drive to counsel this morning, and I have a copy for the court.
Do you want to offer that as an exhibit? No objection?
No objection, if,
Certainly.
in the sense that we'll move this thing along and not
And I have
question
it.
every single
I
one.
gave counsel a list of everything that's on here. I'll give the same list to Madam Clerk. So, Judge, I'm just wrapping this up right now. So you said, what part of I don't want you involved don't you get? Meaning, leave me alone and I'm going to do it myself, right? And he says, well, if I'm the father, I have custodial rights. Words to that effect, right? And then you say, no, you won't, because I'll say it's someone else's, right?
Correct.
That's what you said back to him.
Correct.
So let's unpack that for a minute. You told him that you would lie about who the father was, right?
I did say that.
Okay. And so you realize that if Mr. Kearney were to press his custodial rights, that would be in a probate court or a family court, right? So what you're saying is that you were going to go into a probate or family court and say it was someone else's, right?
Objection, that's not what she was saying, Judge.
The text message will speak for itself.
Sure. And I'm asking about her state of mind in the sense of, again, lying, manipulating, and that kind of thing. So I would ask the question in terms of her state of mind.
Repeat the question.
Sure. You're expressing your intent to portray a different scenario in court if there was a custodial fight over the baby, right?
Nothing about court ever came up.
But that was your state of mind when you said that, right?
No, I wasn't thinking about court, I just told him.
Well, he said he wanted custody or custodial rights, right?
Correct.
And that gets litigated where?
Judge,
Sustained.
objection.
That
Next
gets
question.
litigated in court, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Next question, Mr. Brady.
And you tried to defeat any suggestion that he might have custodial rights by saying that you were going to lie, right?
I said what I said in the message, correct?
And is there anywhere else that we haven't gotten to here today where you've done a similar thing
Similar thing in terms of what,
in terms of lying?
I don't know, I haven't seen everyone.
Objection, Judge. She never admitted to lying.
Sustained.
So it's fair to say that at the time the issue of custodial rights came up, you made a decision that suited you and your needs to lie.
Correct.
Anything further, Mr. Brady?
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Ms. Gaetani, you were pregnant in December of 2023, and it was the defendant's child?
Yes.
Okay, and after the incident, you were frightened by Mr.
What incident we refer to?
After the incident on December 23rd, thank you, Your Honor, you were frightened by the defendant, is that right?
Objection to the form, Judge.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Maybe rephrase the question, counsel.
Okay. How did you feel after December 23rd in regards to the defendant?
Extremely scared of him.
And that's because he has such a wide reach, is that right?
Objection to the form.
No, overrule.
That's one of the reasons.
And because he was physical with you, is that right?
Correct.
And just downstairs a moment ago, you got a telephone call, is that right?
Correct.
And that was from your children's school, is that right?
Correct.
Objection. I don't know where to go with this.
Could I see counsel sidebar?
Yeah.
Quiet, please, folks. Judges on the bench.
This is what I'm trying to say. This is the kind of fear that she is reasonable. She's not reasonably afraid of him because he has this reach.
What was the threat?
There's a DCF complaint.
About what? For why?
I don't know the full details.
What other details?
She got a call from the superintendent. Our superintendent said, you just have a DCF.
An anonymous call? Anonymous call, what is it?
No, the fun part here is this guy, he's awful. She's unidentified as harassment.
Maybe up to this point, up to today?
She testified that she was harassed by him on Facebook Live.
After the order was entered?
No. If in December, after the Facebook on December 9th, he gets sending stuff on his Facebook there. He has saying we can get into all the details.
Well, I have an affidavit. The affidavit is enough. Okay. Okay, that's the first one.
First of all, just to kind of character assassination, attributing something
Yeah.
to Mr.
I mean, we
Sit
have
there,
because I don't,
and then just hope that you can remain,
I don't know what you mean by that. That means she's,
just
someone's making anonymous calls.
before we finish this cyber, can I just consult with my client? Just they're trying to get my attention to add something to this. Okay, I just have a second.
We continue. Next question, counsel.
I think he said he was going to come back.
don't think anonymous phone.
Thank you. So it just brought to my attention that, she testified that she didn't have a phone. And I believe that
On her, right? She
testimony.
didn't say on her. She said that she didn't have a phone on her.
Oh, I thought she said she didn't bring her phone, but,
Okay.
but I mean, Mr. Kearney has nothing to do with any of this stuff, Judge.
They continue, Mr.
No further questions, Your Honor. You're all set. Thank you.
Further evidence?
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
Plaintiff, right?
Call Aidan Kearney.
Okay,
It's been sworn. You want him over here?
right there would be good.
Yeah, right over.
Be quiet.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. Please state your name and spell your last
Aidan Kearney, Kearney.
And where'd you grow up, sir?
Worcester, Massachusetts.
Where do you live now?
Holden.
And are you married?
I am.
Do you have children?
I do.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an independent journalist and content creator.
And how long have you been so employed?
About 10 years.
What did you do before that?
I was a high school teacher in 𝗬𝗏 Regional School District
How long?
for 11 years.
And, just a brief bit about your educational background.
I graduated at the University of Massachusetts. I have certificates in education, postgraduate, and that's about it.
Obviously, we're here today because this plaintiff, Ms. Gaetani, has sought a restraining order against you, implicating the issue of whether there's a risk of you inflicting imminent serious bodily harm on her, correct? And have you ever laid a hand on her in any sort of assaultive way?
Never.
When did you meet her?
First time I met her was September 15th in person. But she messaged me on September 4th. Was the first time we ever spoke.
September 4th?
Yeah, we spoke on September 4th, met on September 15th.
So she reached out to you,
That's correct.
and what was the nature of that?
She was hitting on me, flirting with me, telling me she wanted sex. And so I agreed to meet with her for sex on September 15th after Sarah reached out.
So there was a suggestion from her about a sexual relationship,
Oh, yes,
and did you take her up on that?
I did.
When was the first time that happened?
September 15th.
And was there an ongoing relationship with Ms. Gaetani beyond a sexual one?
We went out for a few dates. I did have feelings for her, but I feel deceived at this point, but certainly at the time I had definitely had feelings for Ms. Gaetani.
Okay. And at some point, the notion of her being pregnant came up, is that right?
That's correct.
And tell the court a little bit about that.
She told me on November 9th that she was pregnant and that it's something to the effect of, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. Before I even initiated my opinion on that, she suggested that she was going to terminate the pregnancy. And later on, her feelings started to change and she said that she was against abortion and she didn't want to have one. And I had said to her that whatever you want, it's up to you. It's not my decision, it's your decision. And eventually, she agreed that she was going to she made an appointment to get an abortion on November 27th. That's what she told me she was. And she wanted me to sleep over her house on November 26th so that I could drive her to the clinic in Brookline. So I did. And then on the morning of the 27th, she said, I don't want you to come. I'm going to do this alone. And I said, okay. So I went to a Panera Bread in Worcester and I waited therefore in case she changed her mind and she needed a ride home. She texted me at 9:30 a picture from what she purported to be the abortion clinic, saying she had second thoughts.
Let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
So as an investigative journalist, you work with digital photographs and you use them all the time, right?
Correct.
All right. What were you able to find out with respect to the photograph from the Brookline clinic?
We were able to find out that the picture she sent me was from December of 2021.
Okay.
The metadata on it said.
All right. And did you talk to her about that?
At the time, I was still under the impression that she was actually at the clinic. She was deceiving me. And she told me that she was having second thoughts. I spoke to her on the phone. I said, you can do what you want, but the fact of the matter is that we live an hour away from each other, so only one of us can have custody.
And what did she, what was her reaction to that?
She hung up the phone and said she was gonna do it. And then
Do what?
get the abortion.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then, so I spent the rest of the day in the Panera Bread, about 6 hours, texting her, are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you need a ride home? And I said, it's okay if you didn't do it, whatever you want, just, I'm here to support you. I called her several times that night, and I went to bed on the night of the 27th, having no idea whatsoever if she was pregnant or not, or if she had gotten an abortion, because she was essentially just messing with my head. And so I had no idea.
Had you ever asked her for proof of this?
That she got an abortion?
That, or that she was pregnant?
I have.
And did you ever get anything that was definitive proof?
No, everything she sent me never had dates on it. She has 4 children, and she's had multiple abortions in the past. So
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained, that's stricken from the record.
okay, she 4 children. She has 4 children. So is my belief that those pictures could have been from any of her 4 children. They didn't have a date on them. I have no idea where they're from. Now that we've analyzed the metadata on the pictures, we know that none of them. They're all from before I met her.
Objection, Your Honor. He's purporting to be some kind of digital.
The rules of evidence don't apply here, Your Honor, within this ambit of this overruled profession. So, Mr. Kearney, just moving on in your history of your relationship with Ms. Gaetani, have you ever threatened her or tried to manipulate her decision on what to do with the alleged pregnancy?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And with respect to your involvement in the alleged pregnancy, what did you want to do, if it was true?
I was happy it was her decision because I am conflicted on the issue of abortion. And it was something I told her that I struggled with. And so quite frankly, I was relieved that it wasn't my decision to make, that it's a woman's right to choose in this state. And so it was completely up to her. Whatever she supported, if she had the abortion, I wasn't going to tell her not to. If she was going to have the baby, I made it very clear to her that only one of us could have custody, and I would be applying for custody.
Did Ms. Gaetani engage in verbally abusive behavior towards you in the course of your relationship?
Throughout the relationship.
Just in a nutshell for the court, what did that consist of?
She would constantly yell at me, demean me, tell me that I'm a dweeb, tell me that I'm a loser, a piece of shit, that I'm a liar, I'm a manipulator. There was one incident in October in which she pretended we were coming home from a bar in Norwood, and she pretended she had to puke, and she got out of the car in Westwood and began running along a dark road.
Objection, Judge. What's the relevance of this story?
Next question, please.
What happened at a Halloween fundraiser in October of 2023?
I went there with Lindsay, I invited her, and towards the end of the night, she became aware that an ex-girlfriend of mine named Lauren had been sending people pictures of her at the event, and this was very upsetting to her. And so I attempted to smooth things over, and with her and
Meaning Ms. Gaetani?
with Ms. Gaetani, yes. And we ended up, I explained to her that I thought that, I'm sorry this happened. I'm sorry, but I'm in a relationship with you now. I only want you. And I ended up going home with her, and I stayed over her house.
Did she mention something about a Ring camera in her bedroom?
She did. She informed me about a week prior that she had been secretly recording us having sex.
Objection, Judge. Again, I don't understand the relevance of
I
this.
see counsel, son. It's in your client's affidavit. On the ring camera? No, there's evidence in your client's affidavit that the fact that there was some video recordings.
No, that's nothing.
Well, let you bring it out.
No, he's bringing up her client.
Does she have a ring camera in her bed?
So the video camera the video relates to a video that the defendant took without our client's knowledge.
That's a
conversation that
audio.
they had.
I know all about that.
It's not audio, but it's a video.
I'm talking about,
format.
did your client make allegations that he videotaped her and having sex?
Not that I'm familiar with, Judge.
Is it in the affidavit?
I don't think so. I mean, it's possible I missed it, but yes. It is in the
I think-
affidavit.
They're talking about the revenge porn.
Publish
Yeah.
that
Yeah, the
revenge
revenge
porn.
porn.
My understanding was that was text messages sent back and forth.
Oh, this is an affidavit about revenge.
Yeah, but you can take images with a cell phone and then send it.
Okay,
Right.
okay. No, oh, I'm gonna allow it.
So you were testifying, Mr. Kearney, about a Ring camera. Can you please continue?
Yeah, I was unaware that there was a Ring camera videotaping us, and she informed me of it on I believe it was around October 19th. And she then sent me 3 videos of us having sex in her room. And prior to that, I had no idea that there was a Ring camera or that it was recording us. And there was audio and video.
And is it fair to say that after that point, was there sexting videos going back and forth between the two of you?
We did that throughout the relationship. We were constantly sending sexual pictures of each other back and forth.
Okay. Was that something that was disapproved of her or discouraged or that she didn't like anyway as she may have expressed it to you?
No, she loved it. We both did.
Now, you said that in November, it came to your attention that she was saying she was pregnant, right?
November 9th, correct.
And was she saying in the written record, the Facebook text record, that you were forcing her to get an abortion?
She constantly told me I was forcing her to get an abortion, something she said she was morally opposed to doing. And I repeatedly told her, I'm not forcing you to do anything. I don't have the ability to force you to do anything. It's a woman's right to choose in Massachusetts.
Did you ever try to force her, cajole her, manipulate her into doing anything relative to this alleged pregnancy?
Absolutely not. I did the opposite.
Now, Ms. Gaetani has expressed a fear, an alleged fear here of vulnerability with respect to DCF and her children.
Correct.
And have you ever done anything to publicize her problems with DCF and her children?
I have not.
To your knowledge, is anyone but Ms. Gaetani responsible for her problems with DCF and her children?
No, just her.
So in late November of 2023, did Ms. Gaetani tell you that she had elected to have an abortion?
She did. She ended up, after ignoring me all day on the 27th, she ended up coming to my court date on the 28th. She actually posted in the Norwood Moms Facebook group looking for a babysitter to come the next day while actively ignoring me. She showed up to my court date in Stoughton, and we met up at the Dunkin' Donuts afterwards. And I asked if she did it, and she said yes, and she started crying. And I consoled her, and I told her it was going to be okay, and that I'm here for her. And she was very upset about it. And I said, and then she asked me if we could be in a relationship. And I said, we'll see. I'd like to be, but let's see where it goes. And for the next week, she constantly told me that she was traumatized from the abortion, that it was my fault, that I made her do something she did not want to do, that I forced her to do it. And I said, I didn't force you to do anything. And that would really upset her when I told her that I didn't force her to do it. She would scream at me and say, yes, you did. You made me do this. Don't you dare effing say that. And I was frightened of her at this point. And this is how most of our conversations went.
And then at some point, did she shift gears away from the notion that she had terminated the pregnancy?
On December 5th, she got especially upset with me. And she told me guess what? I didn't have the abortion. I was lying to you to see how you would react, and I'm so glad now because I'm keeping it. And I was very shocked by this, that I had been deceived for a whole week about her having an abortion. And she asked me to meet her the next day on December 6th. So I agreed to meet her at a parking lot in a town called Boylston at the Dragon 88. And we met there around noon to discuss, because she said she was still going to get an abortion now that she's back to being pregnant. So
Let me stop you right there and ask you another question. Did, at this general time period in your relationship, did Ms. Gaetani engage in behavior that was inconsistent with how a responsible pregnant person would conduct themselves?
Object to form, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So you were, I'll lay some foundation if I may, Your Honor. You were skeptical about whether or not she was pregnant at all by this point.
Object to form, Your Honor.
Just trying to lay the foundation.
You're leading the quick.
Well, I'll withdraw. What's your state of mind with respect to the truthfulness of her testimony and her position with you at the time about being pregnant?
I began to doubt anything she said at that point because she lied about having an abortion.
And what contributed in terms of her behavior to you further doubting it?
Because she sold it so well. I mean, she did a tremendous job of pretending to be traumatized from this, crying to me on the phone.
And let me just stop you because I don't think you understand my question. I'll ask you a better question. The question is, what was her behavior that added to your skepticism about her being actually pregnant?
Well, every time I see Lindsay, she's drunk. She gets drunk.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Relevance is the.
Overruled.
Sorry.
She was claiming to be pregnant, yet we would go out drinking. She would have 4 or 5 drinks, get blackout drunk. And when I saw her on December 6th and I met her in that parking lot, she was very upset and was kicking. We sat in her minivan and she kicked the pedals in her car in anger at me. And she said, "I'm drunk right now." And she pulled out a water bottle that was filled with vodka. And then she said, "I have to go pick up my kids at daycare now."
So were you trying to break up with her?
Counsel, you can cross-examine him after that, okay, please?
I was trying to, yes. I said, "Why would you want to be in a relationship with me? This is clearly I upset you." And that just made her more angry. The more I tried to leave her, the more angry she got.
Did you use the word toxic?
Yes.
Now, moving up to December 7th, did she re-engage with you relative to this pregnancy and another issue with this alleged pregnancy?
Yes.
What was it?
She said that she had an appointment at the clinic in Brookline on December 8th, and she needed a ride home again.
You mentioned that earlier,
This is
correct?
the second time.
Okay, this
this
is
is the
another
second
time.
time.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the first time was November 27th, and that didn't happen. And then she said she was going to do it on December 8th and needed a ride home. And she asked me to sleep over that night because just to comfort her, and I agreed to do that.
And did you do that?
So she changed her mind on December 8th. She said, "I'm not going to go to the clinic. I'm going to take the abortion pill." And apparently how that works is she said that she took 1 pill in the morning in front of the doctor. That's what she said. And that she has to take the other 4 at night. And apparently she said that the first one terminates the pregnancy. The 4th one extracts the fetus. And so she said, "It's painful and I need you here with me in case I am in pain or need to go to the hospital." So I agreed to sleep over her house on December 8th.
At this point, what's your state of mind about whether this is a fantasy or whether it's true?
Honestly, I was leaning towards she's not pregnant. I was asking other women about this, what do you think of this, asking their opinion. And they all told me this is inconsistent with behavior of a pregnant woman.
In the course of her trying to get you to stay there, did a verbal dispute arise between the two of you about whether you were going to stay there with her or whether you were going to go work?
So on this, the whole purpose of me being there was she was going to take the 4 abortion pills that night. We woke up at 5:30 the next morning and she said, "I forgot to take the pills." And I said, "Well, it's 5:30. You can take them now if you want." And she said, "No." She started screaming at me. She pretended to flush the pills down the toilet. And she started just berating me like she always does, telling me I'm a scumbag, and said that you have to come back tonight. This is now Saturday. She said, "You have to come back tonight."
What was your answer to that?
I said, "I can't come back tonight. I have my show."
And what do you mean when you say you have your show?
So
What's that?
Lindsay knows that I do a a live show. It's my job, my livelihood.
Is that on Facebook?
YouTube, every Tuesday and Saturday night.
And that's, how did she react when you told her that you had to do that?
She became enraged, furious. She texted me close to 100 times in the next few hours, including during the show, in which she sent threatening messages. She called me before the show started, and she said that she was going to, quote, drop that fetal alcohol baby off at your house and go party the night away. She then told me that she was going, that if, because I was ending things with her and not coming over, that she said, if you think 9 felonies are bad, wait till you see what's coming next. And apparently that is this.
At some point, did you become aware that she was communicating with members of the Albert and McCabe families and their
Could I have a
supporters?
date, could I have a date in that conversation? What is it?
December 9th. Ron.
December 9th.
At some point, did you become aware that she was communicating with people that were adverse to your investigation in the Reed case?
I did.
And give the court a brief nutshell about that.
Well, a woman by the name of 𝗵𝗵𝗃, who is a woman who's somewhat obsessed with me and just focuses her life on me, she began to make tweets, put tweets out about very sensitive personal information that I had only told Lindsay. And one particular thing involved my 8-year-old daughter. I had made she posted something out to the effect of Aidan doesn't bond well with his daughter. He doesn't even love her. And I had previously had a conversation with Lindsay in which I said that it was easier to bond with my son because we had more in common than it was with my daughter. She also posted, I was signed to do a documentary. I've signed with a major production company out of Los Angeles and partnered with another company in Boston. And I had told her on November 21st, the names of the 2 producers, Eric Levy and 𝗺𝗺cie 𝗁𝗃. And on somewhere around December 13th or 14th, 𝗵𝗵𝗃 posted the names 𝗺𝗺cie 𝗁𝗃 and Eric Levy, and that they were doing the documentary. And she is known to harass people that are associated with me. And as a direct result of that, the documentary was put on hold.
All right. So at that point, it's fair to say that you had a strong suspicion that she was the one, Ms. Gaetani was the one that was feeding this information to Ms. Peter, who regularly attacks you online.
That's correct.
Did Ms. Gaetani admit to you that she was in communication with the lead policeman who was prosecuting you and the special ADA that was appointed to prosecute you?
She told me that when I was over her house on the 23rd.
Did she say what the topic of her communications with them was relative to you?
Correct. Yes, she did.
What was it?
She said that when she spoke with Ken Mello, that she apologized and said, I only went to them out of anger. If I could take it back, I would. I'm so sorry. And I forgave her because I felt like she was doing the right thing. And I said, it's okay, I forgive you, and we can fix this. It's gonna be okay. And I comforted her.
Before we move on there, you saw a reference in her affidavit about how you wanted to control the involvement of the lawyer that you were offering to help her with, right?
Correct, that's what she said.
Was that true?
No.
What did you say to her just in general about offering to help her in terms of getting a lawyer to get her out of this when she came to you in that regard?
Lieutenant Tully had specifically told her, he went to her and said.
Hold on,
Oh,
where are you getting that from?
from her.
Okay,
So
what
she-
did she tell
She
you,
told me
Tully
that
told you?
When Lieutenant
Her.
Tully came to her house, he said, I just came from court with Aidan. He has his new girlfriend there. He replaced you real quick. And he also went on, I apologize, what was the original?
So,
I gotta strike that last answer. It's unresponsive to the question. Next question, please.
what did she tell you that the police were there and the prosecutor were in communication with her
Okay.
for?
That she said that she went to them out of anger. And she was worried that I would post naked images of her or something like that. and that Ken Mello told her, "We will make you a witness in his trial, so that way he can't write about you. And it will be witness intimidation if he does."
Did she tell you whether or not they wanted her phone?
Yes, she said that he was demanding her phone, and he was giving her two options. Either she could.
Who's he? Mello?
Lieutenant Tully. Lieutenant Tully was demanding her phone, and that either she could hand over her phone to him to download, or they could sit next to each other and she could screenshot our entire conversation and send it to him. And he did not have a warrant to do this, and I advised her to get an attorney.
And with respect to this business about you being done with Ms. Gaetani and having another girlfriend in the court, that you were done with Ms. Gaetani, was any of that true?
No, that was a complete lie on the part of Lieutenant Tully.
What did Ms. Gaetani tell you that she said to the officers about giving up the phone?
She said she didn't want to give up the phone. And this is the reason she had ultimately kind of come back to me, was that she said that she was just angry and didn't want to, she just did it out of anger. But now that she got a summons, and now that they wanted her phone, she was freaking out and didn't know what to do. So she came back to me looking for comfort and offered her all this information up to Tully.
So it's fair to say that at that particular point in time, circumstances changed to suit her to go back to you for assistance.
Correct.
Did she report to you what Lieutenant Tully told her about whether she should have a lawyer for this grand jury?
She did.
What did he say?
She said that she does not need a lawyer, and that in 99.9% of grand juries, witnesses do not have attorneys with them.
Did she ever say anything to you about what exactly they wanted her to testify about?
She did.
What was that?
They wanted information about Karen Reed. They wanted information specifically about the FBI investigation into Lieutenant Tully. And they wanted information about Karen Reed's relationship with United States Attorney Josh Levy, and whether or not I had been paid by the Karen Reed defense team to write favorable stories about Karen Reed.
What's the relevance of this, Mr. Bradley?
Your Honor, it presents a full picture of the relationship. It directly contradicts her affidavit, and it shows her credibility, such as it is.
There's a difference between a full picture and giving way beyond the sort of context and backstory that is necessary.
Sustained. Next question, please.
Did Ms. Gaetani send you a picture of this summons?
She did.
And what happened with respect to that?
We spoke on the phone about it, and she said that she wanted me to come over that night. And I then contacted you about it. I wasn't sure if it was real or not, and you advised me not to go over it. And I told her, my attorneys told me not to come over there, and so I can't come over tonight.
Did she say whether what she was going to do in retaliation to that?
She said that she was going to have to, I forget her exact wording, but something to the effect of she was going to have to do what she needed to do, to benefit herself.
Did she say whether or not she was going to disclose her alleged pregnancy?
She did. She told that she was going to tell the grand jury about the baby.
Objection again, Judge.
Relevance.
Judge, this is, the relevance would be just that she's luring him over to the house. In contradiction to her affidavit.
Next question.
Is this when she gave you some details on how she was cooperating with the other side, so to speak, in the Reed case?
Yes, later on, I wondered how Tully would even know who she is. She's a random.
Calls for yes or no answer.
So yes.
So yes.
And so, Judge, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on from that, but I believe that was already fleshed out. And is that when she engaged in her apologies as we discussed on cross-examination
Yeah,
with her?
we spoke on the phone, or originally on Facebook and then on the phone from about 12:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. in which she was crying and saying how sorry she was. And she seemed genuinely empathetic, and I felt bad for her. I really did, even though she had done me wrong and betrayed me. I still felt empathy for her because she was in a tough situation and I was willing to help her out.
I mean, what you've testified to is basically a shakedown of a woman.
Sustained.
Did you feel sympathy for Ms. Gaetani?
Absolutely, I did. I felt nothing but sorrow for her. My heart broke for her, and I told her that I loved her.
So I asked you earlier about what the police asked her, and you mentioned some things about their interest in the Reed investigation with respect to the FBI. But my question now is, did Ms. Gaetani ever tell you anything about what these officers may have wanted her to testify to about an investigation into you?
She said that actually that she didn't think they were looking for me so much as they were looking for Karen Reed, because she knew.
Judge, objection. Again,
Sustained. Next question.
Did she ever report anything to you about why they wanted her to testify about you in an investigation into you?
Well, yes, because she said that she had been telling them about my relationship with Karen Reed, that her and I had spoken before, and they believed that Karen Reed might have told me something about the grand jury investigation into them, and that I might have told Lindsay, who might offer that information to them.
Sure, but that's really just still information about the other case. Was there ever any report from Ms. Gaetani about what Tully and the other guy wanted her to testify to about you?
Yeah, they wanted to know about whether or not I was being paid off, whether or not my Lexus was received for free.
By who though?
By Karen Reed's brother.
By people involved in the Reed case.
Correct.
So again, I'm going to ask you again, relative to you and any criminal behavior by you.
No, to my knowledge, she never talked about my case. It was all the Karen Reed case.
Take the luncheon recess, 2 o'clock.
Court, all rise.
They didn't know to send her back to you. So we'd be off to wait to grab. Are we waiting for other counsel?
He's just using the restroom. You can proceed.
Thank you.
Well, why don't we wait if he's doing the cross? Who's doing the cross-examination?
I am.
Okay, why don't we just, okay.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I call Aidan Kearney back to the stand, Your Honor.
Been sworn.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Sir, you were talking about your conversations with Ms. Gaetani in early December of 2023. Do you recall that?
Yes.
All right, and you heard Ms. Gaetani say that in the vicinity of December 9th that she didn't want you to contact her anymore. She wanted to get away from you, and that was it, or words to that effect. Is that right?
That's what the affidavit says.
All right. Can you recall how many times after that date Ms. Gaetani reached out to you via text and email?
I would guess hundreds.
May I approach her? I'm just going to show you this document. You know what that document is, right?
Yeah, this is all of our text messages from December 9th on.
All right, and what are the highlights portion show?
The highlights are when she messages me after December 9th.
All right, and is it fair to say that the pages from December 9th to the present are covered in yellow highlighter?
Yeah, goes back about 9 or 10 pages here. All yellow, almost.
Thank you. Is it fair to say that the spreadsheet of text messages covers hundreds of yellow highlighted text messages from her?
That's correct.
Did you do anything to force her or cause her to contact you?
No, she initiated contact. She actually initiated contact from her son's phone on December 15th.
And what were some of the requests in the contact when she used her son's phone?
While using her son's phone, she attempted to engage me in sex and said she missed the dick.
She invited you over for sex?
Using her son's phone.
And
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Relevance.
A little late, counsel. Overruled.
then in 12/21, did Ms. Gaetani initiate conversation on that date?
Well, yeah, we had sex the day before.
And did she send photographs to you of a sexual nature?
Yes.
And not just to remain polite, but just what were the nature of that?
Objection, Your Honor.
I see counsel Saga. Just one of you object. I don't think both of you object.
Understood,
Only one counsel objects. Who's doing the?
I'm going.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's the relevant? Where is it? What's the objection?
First of all, we haven't established that he was using her son's phone. That's
I don't
inflammatory.
think it has anything to do with the son's phone, does it?
No, no.
This has nothing to do with the son's phone.
He just testified that he was using his son's phone to send illicit pictures to him. The sex thing.
She did, and she was.
And
He
it
just
wasn't-
testified
It
to
wasn't
it.
her son's phone.
Okay, so why aren't you going to cross-examine him on that?
Well, how's he gonna know? He's just making this statement.
What do you mean? I mean,
He's testifying that it was her son's phone.
right?
I mean,
He's under oath.
The
Cross-examine.
offer of proof, Judge, is in the texting. It says, "This is my son's phone."
Does it say that?
I'll withdraw that. I'll get him on the hold.
Let's kind of straighten things out. What's the objection?
My
What's the
general
objection?
objection is to streamline this. This is he's going.
Well, think about the streamline. I have all day here, okay? Okay, what's the
All right, I'll
objection,
withdraw my
sir?
objection.
What's the objection, sir?
It was to relevance, Your Honor.
Okay, but you can't, I'm just saying, what's the relevance of this? Mr. Mayor?
It's to establish her that she's the initiator of this constant sexual contact, when she's saying that she was being pressured by him and she's afraid of him, but yet she's pursuing him for sex the whole month.
Okay, Judge, he was about to get into the specifics of what these pictures were.
Right,
Right, I don't
it's
think
not
we have to get into the specifics of.
I don't want to.
You're gonna
I'll
give me
move
all the
on.
text messages.
I'll move
aren't you?
on.
So that's gonna come into evidence. I already have those text messages.
I'll move on.
So with respect to the cell phone, how did you learn it was her son's cell phone?
She told me it was her.
So she invited you over for sex on 12/15?
Yeah, so
Just yes or no?
yes,
Okay. 12/21, is that the date that you received another sexually oriented photo?
yes.
Was there a request, a sexually oriented request?
Yeah, she said she wanted to have a threesome that night.
What's the relevance of this line of questioning, counsel?
Your Honor, the relevance is that Ms. Gaetani is claiming that she wants to get away from my client, that she's scared of him, and yet she's constantly pursuing him.
I think the
for
fact that they're texting
sexual
back and
relations.
forth, you can establish that by,
Okay.
without getting into the details of their text messages.
Thank you, Your
I'll ask another question. Did you ever say anything when you left her house, fast forwarding to the night in question here, 12/23, did you say anything when you left the house?
No, I waited until she fell asleep and just left quietly.
Did you say this is war, as it states in the police report?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Now, I just want to ask you, the last thing I want to ask you about is the 23rd. So describe for the court the circumstances behind how you came to go to her house. Why did you go to her house?
So we had spoken the night before from 12:30 to 2. She apologized. She admitted that she had been in contact with Ken Mello, with Brian Tully, with Catherine Peter, all while outwardly supporting me. She said she did it out of pure anger after we broke up on December 9th, and that she wanted to invite me over to show me all of her text messages because she didn't feel comfortable taking screenshots of them and sending them to me. So I went over there and I told her beforehand, I can't sleep over. I'm just here to look through your phone and see the screenshots. And she was okay with that. We agreed to meet in the conference room area. We did for approximately 2 hours. She voluntarily showed me her phone. That was the whole purpose of being there. And around 11 o'clock, one of her sons woke up and we had to go into her apartment. And when we went in there, she began.
Let me stop you right there. So you're down in the conference room and her kids are upstairs?
She lives on the first floor. Big S.
Okay. So she's not in her apartment
That's
and the
correct.
kids are in the apartment?
That's correct.
And how did she come to get that knowledge that the kids were awake?
She has a Ring camera video of us. And I believe one of her sons alerted her, the 12-year-old alerted her.
And what did you and she do in response to the 12-year-old alerting?
We went into her apartment and she began to unplug all of her surveillance because I was suspicious that she would be recording it. She's recorded me before in the past. And so she began to unplug everything. And then we sat down at around 11. And for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, we went through all of her messages between her and Catherine Peter between December 11th and December 23rd.
When you say we, was it we or was it just you taking her phone and stealing it from her to do it what you would with it?
I never touched her phone. She was in complete control of the phone the whole time.
And how did she proffer the information to you? What did she
So
do?
she would scroll through the messages and I would sit there taking notes about what I was seeing.
And at some point you assembled 5 pages of notes?
Yes, including that Jennifer McCabe was her babysitter.
And that's the alleged co-conspirator from the Reed case?
Correct.
Did she talk to you about how she came to be involved with Ms. Gaetani?
Yeah, she said that Catherine Peter put her in touch with Jennifer McCabe on December 13th, and that Jennifer McCabe told her.
What's the relevance of this line of questioning? I know there's no objection, but what's the relevance?
I'll withdraw you.
Okay. I mean, we could focus on that night, please.
Sure. And so the general idea, without getting into too much specifics, is that is she willingly proffering you her phone or are you taking it from her?
Oh, yeah, it was willingly proffering. It was her, that was the whole purpose of me being there.
Did you express any anger or hostility towards her?
No, I expressed sadness and disappointment reading how she was, saying horrible things about me in the messages. But I said I forgave her and I was happy and proud that she was coming forward and doing the right thing.
Did you ever tell her to lie anywhere or misrepresent anything or delete anything or get rid of anything?
I told her the exact opposite. I told her, just tell the truth because there's nothing to hide. We haven't done anything wrong and there's nothing, this is a fishing expedition. There's nothing that's in here.
What about the lawyer? Did you try to set up some scheme with a lawyer that would report to you instead of her, anything to that effect?
She said she couldn't afford a lawyer. And I said, I'll message my friend, Mike Ehrlich. And so I messaged my friend, Mike Ehrlich, who's an attorney in Worcester on Facebook. I haven't seen if he's gotten back to me because I haven't had my phone in 2 weeks, but.
Were you trying to help her
or arrange something for yourself?
No, I was trying to help her because she seemed desperate and sad, and I felt bad for her because she seemed very scared. She kept saying how scared she was because they wanted her phone, and she was also scared because she specifically said, how am I going to get out of this situation with 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗏? If she finds out I'm talking to you, then she's going to post pictures of me and she's going to come after me.
And incidentally, with respect to Ms. Gaetani's testimony that she was afraid you were going to post sexual pictures of her in retaliation, you recall that?
I heard her testimony, yes.
Did she spend the entire month of December sending you sexual pictures?
Yeah, we exchange sexual pictures almost every day.
At some point, just for the court, just tell the court when it was you engaged in sexual relations that night with her.
So after we finished reading her voluminous text messages with Catherine Peter, at 2:30, we were on the couch and she leaned over and started kissing me and then started feeling my pants and she started giving me oral sex. And so we had sex for about, 20, 30 minutes. And then around 3 o'clock, I said, I have to go home now because I told her before, I can't sleep over. It's the 23rd going into the 24th. And she didn't like that answer at all. She said, you used me, like something snapped in her. And she immediately began putting her clothes on and went into the living room and took my notes and ripped several pages of them out and stuffed them down her shirt.
Did you touch her in any way at that point?
No, I asked her several times, can I have them back? Even in the next day, I even texted her. I said, can I have those notes back? I mean, that's my property. It's what I spent hours working on over there. I would never try to take some. I knew they were in her shirt, but I wasn't going to touch her against her will. And so
What happened next?
So what happened next was to keep me around. She then took the abortion pills, the 4 abortion pills that she didn't take 2 weeks prior, but they wouldn't be.
Well, what happened next? We could just,
Okay.
what happened next?
Is it fair to say that the subject of the conversation went back to the alleged pregnancy?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the outcome of that conversation with respect to what you did or what she did?
Well, I saw her take what she claimed to be the 4 abortion pills. She put them in her cheek like this. She spit one of them out, but she put it back in her mouth. And then she started taking all sorts of other drugs. She went through and started taking, I don't know what these were, but bottle after bottle, popping pills. And she told me that now I've taken the abortion pill. Now I'm going to be in pain for the next 3 hours. You have to stay. You can't leave. I was trying to leave, and she was doing what she needed to do to make sure that I couldn't leave.
What happened next?
So after that, I eventually did walk out the door. And then she came running out the door and said, if you leave, I'm going to kill myself and I'm going to blame you. I'm going to put you in the note. And so I was scared. She's screaming. She has 4 kids in the house. So I agreed to go back inside the house. And she continued to berate me and threaten me. And I kept telling her, I have to go. And she said, no, you can't. I took these pills. I'm going to be in pain. You can't leave me here. So finally, she started screaming for all of her kids to wake up. And the 5-year-old came out.
Did she announce some sort of a plan as to why she's waking all of her kids up at
She
3
said that
o'clock
she
in
was
the
going to
morning?
wait. She said she was going to wake them up, to put them into the car, to drive to my house so that mommy can bleed out in the driveway and tell his family about the baby he just aborted. And the 5-year-old walked out, and it was he had a look of absolute horror.
Next question, please, Mr. Reynolds.
Sure. At some point, did she settle down?
No.
Did she go to sleep at any point after this?
So eventually, I agreed because I was scared for the children, what she was going to do to them. I agreed to sit on the couch. And I sat on the couch, and she went in the other room and pretended to pass the baby. And I finally waited for her to fall asleep. At 5 o'clock, I left. I was so tired that on the way home, I fell asleep behind the wheel of my car and I crashed on 495.
At any point during this interaction on December 23rd, 2023, did you put your hands on Ms. Gaetani anywhere?
Absolutely not.
Did you grab her wrist?
Not at all.
Did you grab her shoulder?
No,
Did you push her into the couch?
absolutely not.
Did you push her onto the couch?
No.
Thank you, nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Very briefly, Your Honor,
Take your time.
Mr. Kearney, you have a blog, is that right?
It's a news website.
And do you have followers of the blog?
Correct.
And do you have a YouTube channel?
I do.
Roughly how many followers do you have on that YouTube channel?
Last I checked, 48,400.
Do you have a Twitter account?
I do.
Roughly how many followers do you have?
Last I saw, 51,800.
Okay. Do you have an Instagram account?
I do.
Roughly how many followers do you have?
I believe 25,000.
Okay. And do you have a Facebook account?
I do.
How many followers, sir?
Roughly 42,000.
Okay. And do you broadcast to these followers? I believe you testified earlier, 2 days a week.
On YouTube, I broadcast 2 days a week, correct.
But are you actively engaged with your followers?
Do I actively engage?
Yes. Do you
What-
tweet? Do you post things
Oh, yes,
regularly?
I use social media frequently,
Generally about what?
every day.
What do you generally post about?
Just stories I'm writing about.
Okay. And do you ever use that following to put together protests,
Sure,
rallies?
yes.
Do you use a bullhorn?
I've used the bullhorn before.
And have you shown up to witnesses' homes with that bullhorn before?
Peacefully protesting, correct.
You testified that there was some explicit photographs exchanged between the two of you. Is that
Correct.
Have you ever been in a relationship prior to the relationship with Ms. Gaetani where you shared explicit photographs?
Yes.
And have you ever posted those photographs online?
After jerk-off videos of me were posted, yes.
So what you just testified.
So if you could just answer the questions.
Yes, I have.
So what you're saying is you've used photos from prior relationships and posted them online before?
Yes.
And was the other person upset about that?
Well, the other person posted pictures of me masturbating, so I posted pictures of her,
Okay, on a public website?
just like she did, correct.
And do you alert your followers, your hundreds of thousands of followers to view those images?
Absolutely not.
Okay. You said that my client was screaming the morning when, after you left your apartment on the 24th, I guess, morning. You said she was screaming.
Correct.
Just make sure all phones are on. Okay, so.
And that was outside the apartment?
It was inside the apartment mostly, but there was one brief episode outside.
Okay, and did anybody hear that outside of any of the neighbors?
I don't know.
No one woke up and no one came out and checked on her?
No, I was back in the apartment in 10 seconds.
Okay. One moment, you're on.
Right.
I believe you testified earlier that you're familiar with metadata
Correct.
because you have experience as an online journalist,
That's right.
familiar with editing videos, would you say?
No,
No, you don't know how to edit a video?
no.
You have no idea how to post a video on your YouTube channel?
No, I posted a video.
So do you know how to edit the content of those videos on your YouTube
No,
channel?
I'm somewhat of a boomer,
What is that?
which means I was not familiar with that aspect of video producing.
So you're not familiar with editing videos, but you are familiar with how to decipher metadata on cellular telephones.
Yeah, you just click on it, it shows you the metadata.
And that's your extent of knowledge on how to discover metadata.
Yeah, it's not complicated.
Okay, so, okay. And you've never edited a video before?
Edited a video?
Yeah,
No, I have somebody else that edits videos.
okay. Who's that?
Her name's Laura, she runs my YouTube channel.
Okay, and do you ever instruct her to edit videos?
No,
She has full discretion on what to post on your YouTube channel?
so if she'll take clips of things that I've done on the show, like funny clips, and she'll make highlight reels of them. That's basically what she does.
Okay, but do you have authority on what is posted?
Yeah, I mean, I've uploaded videos, sure.
Okay, so you can upload the video, but your colleague Lauren edits the video.
No, if I upload it, then it's as it is.
After the incident with Ms. Gaetani, did you ever upload any videos related to her?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you post about her on your blog?
I've not posted about her on my blog.
Did you post about her on any of your social media accounts?
No. I've never mentioned her name publicly at all on any social media.
But you did upload a video of a conversation between the two of you?
Yes, without saying her name.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Further evidence? Plaintiff? Plaintiff, any further evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I think if this is okay with brother counsel here, I have my investigator here, 𝗵𝗵𝗃. He filed a report about speaking with Grace Barrett. She's the lady that I mentioned at the beginning of this who didn't show up, the babysitter of Ms. Gaetani. He wrote a report, and that's the report that says that Ms. Barrett told him that Ms. Gaetani recanted and said that Mr. Kearney didn't assault him. So I'd like to offer that video. I can call Mr. 𝗃𝗃, or I can proffer it. No, a report, just a written report.
You said you had a video. Offer the video.
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have misspoke. I meant, I have reports from Mr. 𝗃𝗃, from Miss Grace Barrett, the babysitter. I have a report from, actually, this is a signed statement taken by Mr. 𝗃𝗃 of an ex-boyfriend of Ms. Gaetani, 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗏, who states that.
Well, I don't think you have to say it on that.
Oh, sure. Relevant to the issues that we have been dealing with here, and I'd ask.
Have you shared that with counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. And then I have a third one, a statement signed by an ex-girlfriend.
A statement from
A
an
written-
ex-boyfriend? Where is he? Why does he testify?
He's out of town, I believe, if I could just have one moment. He's traveling, he's on vacation, Judge. And Mr. 𝗃𝗃, my investigator, is here, and he took the written statement. It was signed by Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃.
Can I see?
And Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 actually reached out to us.
She recorded.
And
She never filled out a plaintiff complaint. But she did not.
Could I see counsel? What's the relevance of this ex-boyfriend?
Okay, so I have two ex-boyfriends.
Two ex-boyfriends?
Two ex-boyfriends, Judge.
You have statements?
Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 was on the so he wrote a signed statement.
How do we find out about ex-boyfriends?
They reached out to us.
They reached out to you?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. This is all on Facebook, very public, and we get inquiries all the time.
Are there restraining orders in those cases at all?
No, Your Honor. Okay, close, but there's charges. And so here's my offer of proof. Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 gives a statement. Can I just retrieve him so I have him here? I don't want to mistake him.
I want to pull the recording.
Yeah, I
Can you
need
give
the
her-
birthday.
have it-
We didn't have
Can I give her
plaintiff's.
her copy?
I just need a date of birth.
Date of birth.
This is my file.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to truncate things a little bit if I can. I mean, I can call Mr. 𝗃𝗃, he can just testify to it. But I'm just seeing if the court will allow me to just proffer them since it's a restraining order here. And I can give you the.
Where is the witness? Where is the witness here?
So, okay, so Lauren Murray's here. Who's Lauren Murray? His ex-girlfriend, who stated that he's his ex-girlfriend, Mr. Kearney's ex-girlfriend, who would state that when Ms. Gaetani got wind of her, Ms. Gaetani was reaching out to her, threatening her.
She's here to testify.
She would, but I also have her signed statement, and I can just offer her signed statement.
Counsel's meant to cross-examine.
Whatever counsel wants.
Have you got the statement?
Is that part of
Yeah,
the-
that's what I gave
Okay.
this one. So that's Lauren Murray. She's ex-girlfriend who would testify that Ms. Gaetani was very jealous and threatened her, made her scared, et cetera, et cetera.
So if that's what he's trying to offer, I'm fine just letting it in for the court's review. We don't need to go through the whole.
Let's go for that, Judge, if that's the case. That's Ms. Murray. Okay, and then the next one is Mr. Boniface.
Why would you allow that to come in?
Well, she's here today.
Yep,
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought we were gonna have to.
she's
no.
here.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to kind of bring this in for a landing. I know the court has a lot of business here.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I have a written statement from Ms. Murray where she can testify. So
She
can I just put that there?
she can
Judge, to my-
testify.
But why, can I just ask one question on that? Why is that relevant to?
I don't know what the relevance is. Are
Yeah,
you
I mean,
objecting to that?
Yeah, I'm gonna object to that because this is essentially character information about my.
So she was dating Mr. Kearney directly before this.
Okay.
And she would testify that he was never violent.
But that's good character evidence. That doesn't come in.
I don't know what that is.
Well,
This is so totally different than this relationship. I'm more concerned about what happened on the night in question.
I understand that. And now this is some other evidence from the past, judges, that Mr. Bonnet had two people to talk about what we allege is her pattern of getting boyfriend's vows revoked and pretending she's pregnant. And two witnesses. One is he here? One is here, Mr. Brown. Mr. Matt Brown is here. He's a friend of Mr. Keegan, who's the father of three of the kids.
he has never met my client before. My client's never met him. This is through a conversation he had in a truck with. Yeah, it has nothing
No,
to
I'm
do
not
with
gonna
this.
Okay. I'll leave the objection, but I'm not
I
gonna.
appreciate it. And just for the record, he would testify that he.
And are there restraining orders between these parties? Yeah?
No.
She doesn't know who he is.
Oh, actually, yeah, Keegan, yes, you're right. He's actually locked up out of this court
Right.
by Ms. Gaetani on a bail
Yeah,
revocation.
I'm aware of that.
Okay, so that's
I'm aware of
Keegan.
that.
Okay. And so he actually reached out to my people. Mr. Keegan did. And just because of logistics with his lawyer, wasn't able to go through his lawyer, couldn't get a hold of him in time. I would have expected to have Mr. Keegan. But then the next guy is Mr. Boniface, Nicholas Boniface.
Does he have restraining orders with Miss?
No.
Let me just take a picture.
Mr. Keegan has restraining orders with Miss.
Yes, that's right. Your Honor. Mr.
Can you ask your client whether she has restraining orders
Yeah.
with those gentlemen?
We're getting a record and we didn't get it. She has no record.
I know Keegan has restraining.
Oh, yeah. You want that?
Well, I know it.
In the past, she has, but she hasn't had contact with him in 6
Keegan.
years. No, Keegan, you asked about Boniface.
Boniface, she has restraining orders with him?
No, in the past she did. She hasn't spoken with him in 6 years.
Has she had him restraining?
In the
Of course.
past, yeah.
I'm not gonna allow that to come in.
So just,
That's not gonna come in.
okay, with respect to Mr. Boniface, Your Honor?
Because she's had restraining orders against him in the past.
I
Every reason for
don't
him
recall.
to,
That's what my client just said she has, yes.
she has. She's been the plaintiff in restraining
Yes.
orders. If they're here, they can be subject to cross-examination.
he's not, he's on vacation. Your Honor.
Okay.
I have a written statement. Can I ask that these be marked for
Those could be-
identification?
Well, they're gonna be impounded. I'm
Sure.
not gonna let these go into the record.
Sure, but just for identification. if there's-
Identification will be impounded. both
Thank
ways.
you, thank you. And then the last thing, Judge, is a statement from Mr. 𝗫𝗵𝗃, who's here and would testify.
Mr. 𝗫𝗃𝗃.
Yeah, my investigator, Mark 𝗫𝗃𝗃. He's a licensed.
I want the witness to be here. Did anyone place a call to her to be here?
I didn't, Your Honor.
Did she have a conversation with her about this? She denied it?
But with
With her
Grace?
babysitter?
Oh, no.
Miss Barrett,
Yeah,
Grace
I don't know about Miss Barrett.
Have you asked her about that? Have they
About,
discussed this case with her?
in the past, I'm sure they have, because this has been something that they both knew Mr. Kearney.
Since this incident happened, has she had conversations with her babysitter about
I
this?
don't know.
So, Judge, in this type of a hearing where it would be no different, I would submit than like a police officer testifying and say, that he spoke with witnesses and this is my report. And so I've asked.
I'd like her to be here, subject to cross-examination.
And she's,
What's the report say?
so it's a 3-page report from Mr. 𝗫𝗃𝗃.
Have you read this report?
Yeah, it's
It's basically the entire
verbatim of,
history with Miss Barrett. She's related to Mr. Keegan.
Who's
and
related to Mr.
Miss Barrett. She's a cousin, I believe, and Miss Gaetani employs her to babysit her kids up until like 2 weeks ago. And she was there at all the relevant times here. And just the most important thing that she said to my investigator.
When was this conversation that she allegedly had with Ms. Gaetani?
Okay, so on 12/27, my investigator, Mark 𝗵𝗏, interviewed Grace Barrett. And Grace Barrett said on the 27th that she came to the house on the 26th to babysit. And she stated that when she arrived to babysit, she made it a point to ask Lindsay if Aidan Kearney committed domestic violence on her. Because that
Use
was,
those words.
yeah, well, that's my
I want
investigator's
her here.
characterization.
I'm not gonna let that come in. I want her, if she's not here, then I'm not gonna, if she's here, you want me to issue this, KPS, I'll issue a KPS. Someone, I asked, I think at 9 o'clock this morning for someone to make a call here. If someone made a call and said a judge wants you here, it would be here.
Actually,
So I'm not gonna take it that way, third party, she's here. All you have to do is place a call to her and say, Judge McCallum wants you to here to testify. And she's been properly served. That's all I need to know. I don't have to have a police officer go issue a KPS.
I didn't call him. If I could just have one moment, Judge, on this point. It's,
That's all I need to know.
I think someone else.
Where does she
reached
live?
out to her. Norwood, Mass. Ed,
Okay, she can be here in 10 minutes
if
then.
I could just have one moment.
We can do another one. There's 2 other matters.
So yes, Judge, one of the folks who assists Mr. Kearney called and left a message this morning, just like you said, saying that the judge is looking for you. Can you get down here? And left a message on their home phone number that we have. So that's all we have.
Who's that who made the call?
Ms. Lombardi, Ms. Rita Lombardi.
Who's that?
She here?
One of Mr. Yeah, she's here. One of our.
Well, why would she be making a phone call? Why doesn't it come from one of the lawyers?
Just trying to help. You know, I've been a little busy doing
Okay,
stuff.
well, why don't you call her and just say that Judge McCallum wants you to be down. If she's in her home and don't know what she should be here to testify, I'm not gonna hear. This is pretty important testimony.
Right.
If this is exactly what you said. Okay, I want to know exactly what she told them. What the conversation was with your client. Because you're saying there was a conversation immediately after this
Well, my
incident.
investigator is here. He can say the conversation.
I want her here. She's under a subpoena. She should be here. You got proper service on her.
Yeah.
I want her there.
Okay.
Okay.
So could I have a minute to
Yep.
try to get her here?
You can be.
Okay.
Call.
Ms. Barrett. She's been texting one of the members of the defense team, and she now is saying that she has COVID and she doesn't want to come in. So I want to ask the court to, in light of that, I want to ask the court to allow me to recall Mr. Kearney about he knows Ms. Barrett, and she reached out to him a couple of times, and I would question him about the interaction, subject to cross-examination.
You want Mr. Kearney to testify to what?
So in the days following this incident, Your Honor, Ms. Kearney, strike that, Ms. Barrett reached out to Mr. Kearney. And Mr. Kearney knows Ms. Barrett from having visited there several times when Ms. Barrett was babysitting. So they know each other. Ms. Barrett was one of Mr. Kearney's followers on Facebook, and they know each other. They're friendly, and that's from Mr. Kearney being at Ms. Gaetani's house from time to time. And the offer of proof would be, Your Honor, that Ms. Barrett reached out to Mr. Kearney and told Mr. Kearney the same thing that I was proffering.
When did she reach out to him?
On the 25th and 26th, Your Honor. They spoke on the phone, and the similar information that we were going to offer through Mr. 𝗵𝗏, our investigator, was related to Mr. Kearney. And when Mr. Kearney reported that to me, I said, okay, Mr. 𝗵𝗏, get out there and get a statement. So it actually originates with Mr. Kearney.
Did he get a written statement from her?
Mr. 𝗵𝗏 did.
Written statement?
No, Mr. 𝗫𝗃 spoke with her. She didn't want to cooperate. She didn't want to testify. She didn't want to sign a statement. So Mr. 𝗫𝗃, he wrote a statement about his interaction with her. And so it's Mr. 𝗫𝗃's statement. But Mr. Kearney took the same information from her. That's what prompted us to send our investigator. Excuse me 1 second. Ron.
Have you heard of this?
And the offer of proof, Your Honor, would be that Ms. Barrett was calling Mr. Kearney from when she was inside of Ms. Gaetani's house, right at the time this happened.
Your Honor, this is.
You mean this witness was in the home?
Yes,
on the-
babysitting.
On the 24th?
And 26th, Your Honor, and called Mr. Kearney and reported this to Mr. Kearney. So the original recipient of it is Mr. Kearney, not Mr. 𝗫𝗃. After hearing this from Mr. Kearney, I then dispatched Mr. 𝗫𝗃 to get a statement. Mr. Kearney was locked up. And so I sent Mr. 𝗫𝗃 to get a
Yeah,
statement.
but she's under a subpoena to be here. Why didn't she?
She's now saying she has COVID.
Really?
That's what she's saying. I don't know, Judge. That's what she's saying. So,
Did she say that this morning when you spoke to her?
no, I think that's a recent fabrication, as we might say. But this morning it was related to one of the members of the defense team.
Where is she? Is she in Norwood right now?
I have no idea, Your Honor. She didn't pick up the phone this morning.
Who spoke with her today?
Ms. Lombardi.
Who's
And
Miss Lombardi?
She's one of Mr. Kearney's friends who's been helping us with the marshaling all this various tips and people and everything else. And she informed Ms. Lombardi that she would call the court and say that she was sick, I think, or something to that effect, Your Honor. So she clearly doesn't want to be here. You know, I don't want to, if she has COVID supposedly, and she's this reluctant, and she's related to myself, not myself, Mr. 𝗫𝗃 and Mr. Kearney, that she doesn't want to testify.
I can understand she being reluctant, but she's a key witness as far as your client is concerned.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
And I would rather hear from her than hearing from an investigator or hearing from Mr. Kearney or hearing from Ms. Gaetani. I'd rather hear from her under oath, subject to your examination and cross-examination by counsel,
Sure.
because if she is saying, you're saying that she has, have you spoken to her?
No, I have not spoken to her. Judge.
Okay,
I
you
don't want to
haven't
be a witness. That's why I had my
So
investigator
your
do it.
investigator says that she will testify
Mhm.
that Ms. Gaetani had a conversation with her, and Ms. Gaetani stated that he did not assault me.
Correct.
That's important. I'd like to hear that testimony. I'd rather hear that from her.
You know, I would too, Your Honor. If I could just have one moment, please, Your Honor.
You want to be heard in this?
I think you're covering it, but there's about 8 layers of hearsay here.
Your client denies she had a conversation with her. About
Correct. First of all, remember, this is in the timeline. This is after the event.
Yeah, right.
And my client will testify if need be that she did not have a conversation with Ms. Barrett regarding what's proffered in this.
Okay. So I gotta hear from her. I don't know what you want.
Judge,
I want to hear from her.
I appreciate the court wanting to be careful and meticulous.
I want to hear from her. I may have questions for her. I want to examine her.
Sure. Well, you know, I don't know what to tell you, Judge. She's saying she has COVID. I don't think she's going to agree to come in without
She didn't say that this morning.
police
right?
assistance.
She didn't say that this morning when she was called.
You know, I'm not exactly clear on the timeline, Judge, because I didn't do it myself. But if I could just have a moment.
Madam Clerk, can we set this up in a Zoom? We can set this up in a Zoom hearing. I'll examine her on the road.
That'd be great.
Okay,
Sure.
we'll get a camera set up. Call her.
Yeah.
We'll set up the Zoom right here.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, further call.
Court, arise.
Do you have anything else? All right. Could you swear the witness, please?
Yes. Ma'am, would you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Swear in the matter now in the hearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Bradel and counsel, do you want to come up here? You can come up here to the clerk's area to examine the witness.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Honor.
Counsel, you're up? Yep.
Mr. Paul is getting
Okay.
She's
She's on the Zoom right there.
Is it okay to inquire from right here, Your
Right.
Honor? Is that okay?
Can you see her?
I can see your judge,
Okay.
thank you.
May I inquire? Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Barrett, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you see me?
No, but
Okay.
that's okay.
All right. Ma'am, my name is Tim Bradel. I'm the attorney for Aidan Kearney, and I want to ask you some questions, okay?
Mhm.
All right.
Yes.
Are you feeling okay right now?
Not really. I'm like, can't sit up for much longer.
Okay. Well, we'll try to make it as brief as we can, okay? You have to answer for the tape recording so they can hear your responses. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Could you identify her for the record, please?
State your name and spell your last name, please.
Grace Barrett, Barrett.
And where do you live?
Norwood, Mass.
And I understand that you're a babysitter. Is that one of your occupations?
No, I wouldn't say that. I only babysat. It's not an occupation. I did it
Okay.
for a friend and I've only done it maybe 3 times.
Okay. And who did you do it for?
Lindsay,
Is that Miss Gaetani?
yes.
And how do you know Miss Gaetani?
She has children with my cousin,
And who's your cousin?
Francis Keegan.
All right. How long have you known Miss Gaetani?
Maybe not even a year.
And what about Mr. Kearney? Do you know Mr. Kearney?
Not at all.
Well, do you follow his internet presence at all, Facebook or YouTube or
Nope.
anything?
Nope.
Okay. Have you, in the month of December, have you been on the phone with Mr. Kearney?
December? No, because I haven't even talked to them in December. Lindsay or anything.
Could you direct your attention to some conversation with some person, please?
Sure. Ms. Barrett, you spoke on the phone to Aidan Kearney recently, didn't you?
Maybe, I think he called me the morning of court.
So you spoke to him the morning of court, meaning what, the 22nd of December?
No,
Oh, how about the
No.
26th of December?
the 26th.
And you spoke with him on the 26th?
I can't even remember it. It wasn't anything sufficient or long or, I don't even know right now, tell you the truth.
Okay, are you nervous?
No, I'm sick as a dog, like really sick.
So,
I don't know what you're getting at. What do you want to get at? I know nothing about this.
ma'am, on 12/27, you spoke with a gentleman named Mark 𝗫𝗏𝗍. Do you remember that? Our investigator, Mr. 𝗫𝗏𝗍?
Not really. I told him I knew nothing, basically.
You talked to him first on
I
12/27?
told him I never knew nothing about the pregnancy. I knew nothing about their relationship. That I only know Lindsay because I am cousins with 3 of her children. That's it.
Are you cousins with their father or the children or?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're my second cousins then, okay?
Okay. You spoke
I
with,
babysat 3 times for her. And it wasn't even to go out with Aiden. Never even babysat for her to get a rental car and a doctor's, like, nothing sufficient to have anything to do with her and Aiden.
sure. Isn't it true that you've been babysitting in the house?
Well, this is your witness, so don't leave the witness, please. You're not cross-examining, it's your witness, you wanted to call her. Right.
After Mr. May I have a moment? May I have a moment?
Right.
I really like what I can't. I'm burning up right
Ms.
now.
Barrett, I understand. It won't take that long.
I'm done.
Mr. Bradel, this is your witness. I think you should be prepared for the examination of this witness. Let's go.
Well, Judge, if she would come here under subpoena.
No, she's under oath. She's in front of me right now. She can see me as a judge on the bench, okay?
There's no way I can get there right now. I am so sad.
Okay, next question, please.
Ma'am, you spoke with Mr. Kearney on Facebook Messenger, isn't that correct? Right around Christmas time.
Not that I remember. No, I don't know. No, I have nothing to say about their relationship. I knew nothing about their pregnancy. Had nothing to do with them. That's it. And I told the detective that. Do not involve me. I have no information about them.
You didn't want to be involved?
Judge,
There was nothing to be involved
I'd
in.
object to leading the witness.
Okay.
He kept everything from me. Like I knew nothing about any of it.
Next question, please.
Why didn't you want to be involved, ma'am?
Because I knew nothing. And there's nothing to say.
Ma'am, isn't it true that on 12/27, you spoke with Mr. 𝗃𝗵𝗃, our investigator?
About what are you talking about? The investigator kept trying to talk to me. And I said, I do not want to be involved. I knew nothing. Nothing.
Okay.
That's not what you told Mr. 𝗃𝗵𝗃, though, is it?
This is your witness, Mr. Bradel.
Oh my God.
You're trying to impeach your own witness.
Sometimes you have to do that, Your
It's your
Honor.
witness.
If she's not cooperative, then I want to ask to
Why
be
don't you
the
ask her whether
leader.
she had a conversation with Ms. Gaetani?
Let me ask another question, Your Honor. Ma'am,
I told him to leave me alone and I wasn't talking to him.
you talked to him on 2 separate dates, didn't you?
Objection.
No, I told him to leave me alone.
Sustained.
No. One time he asked to talk and I said no. And he asked if I would meet him and I said, I don't know. And then when he called, I said I wouldn't meet him.
Did you arrive to babysit at Ms. Gaetani's house on 12/27/23?
Yes.
And on that date, you were aware that there was an incident involving Mr. Kearney and Ms. Gaetani. Is that right?
Leading.
Yeah, you're leading the witness, mister. This is your witness.
Well, Judge, she's
This is your
clearly.
witness. It's your witness.
Right, but
We all-
if you call a witness, Your Honor,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Next
it's not
question.
cooperative.
Next question.
You were aware that there was an incident between Mr. Kearney and Ms. Gaetani, correct?
Yep, that's why I was going to revisit.
And you went over there, and the first thing you did was talk to Ms. Gaetani about the incident, right?
Objection, leading judge.
Nope, you're wrong. I went there and hung with the kids. He was getting dressed.
Didn't you make it to a point?
Mr. Bradel, why don't you ask her the conversation she had with Ms. Gaetani that day, okay?
What was the conversation you had with Ms. Gaetani that day?
None. She was getting dressed. I told her not to tell me anything. I didn't want to know, and not to tell me anything. I didn't want to know anything because I didn't want to get involved in this. I did say that to her.
Was she trying to talk to you about it or no?
Anything. I didn't want to get involved.
What prompted you to
I
have,
left. I went and hung with the kids. Only the kids.
what prompted you to say that to Ms. Gaetani?
Because I don't want to be involved. Basically,
Were
where
you,
are you now?
were you about to get involved?
Oh my God. What does it mean? I know nothing. What do you want to ask? I know nothing.
Mr. Bradel, I think the proper
You know
question would be,
everything.
what statements, if any, did Ms. Gaetani make to you on that day?
None. None.
So you came to her house to babysit that day?
And I sat with the kids.
And it's your testimony that you didn't,
No, and she was an ex-colleague and she left.
and it's your testimony that you didn't have any discussions with Ms. Gaetani?
Ask the answer, Judge.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Nothing further on.
Any cross-examination?
No, Judge, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Madam Clerk? Okay. Any further evidence?
Defense calls Aidan Kearney.
Party testified.
What's the purpose?
Impeach the witness, Your Honor.
This is your witness. You're gonna call your client to rebut a witness that you called? That you put under summons?
Your
No,
Honor.
it's not gonna happen.
I need to lay down, please.
Mr. Braley, you know that's not improper.
Your Honor,
This is your witness. You summoned her to be here today. She testified. Now you're gonna call someone else to impeach your own witness?
and to also offer substantive testimony about their conversations with Ms.
It doesn't
Barrett.
go that way. You've been practicing long enough. It doesn't.
But
doesn't
Judge,
go
that's at a trial. This is a hearing
Well, this is
where
a
the rules
hearing.
of evidence expressly do
No, I know
not
the rules of
apply.
evidence, but we have a
So
witness.
you're
who's already
treating it like a
testified.
trial.
Well, I have to, within the framework, it's a civil proceeding. You know, this has been going all day, Mr. Brady.
Judge, you know, we do things right. A witness comes to us with information. We send an investigator to,
She could, you can, she doesn't need, you don't need.
We're done here. Thank you.
we send an investigator to take a statement from her. Witnesses are not my witness or the plaintiff's witness. Witnesses are witnesses.
You called her.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, but that doesn't mean that, you know, people sometimes have to call witnesses that, you know, you expect them to tell the truth and you expect them to proffer the evidence that they've already proffered to you. And if they don't, then you should be given some leeway to cross-examine them, which you didn't give me, which I respect your decision. So the next move for that has to be that I would offer under the this type of a proceeding where the rules of evidence do not apply, and we do many of these hearings, all of us in this room in front of the bar, where the rules of
I'll
evidence
allow
don't
you to
apply.
witness to test, anyone you want to call to anything that happened on the night in question. That's what I thought this witness was going to testify. To
No.
certain, you made an offer of proof this morning, Mr. Bradel,
Yes,
that if she were called to testify, that you would testify to A, B, and C.
that's what she told my investigator, Your Honor. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Apparently got it wrong, maybe. I don't know.
No, we didn't get it wrong. She's not telling the truth. Is my proffer. Excuse me. one
It's your
second.
witness.
So Judge, you know, where a witness decides to not be cooperative, you know, the proponent of the evidence should have another way to introduce it, particularly where we're at a proceeding where the rules of evidence don't apply. So I would ask you to allow me to call a percipient witness to the interactions with Ms. Barrett to report them to the court, and Your Honor is the fact finder, and you can do with it what you will. But in terms of, you know, tightening up the rules of evidence, I know it's late, I know it's a lot of information, I really appreciate the court's patience. And you've been very indulgent in allowing us to put our case in. This is an important aspect of the case that for whatever reason, one side of the conversation doesn't want to talk about it, but that information was conveyed to Mr. Kearney and Mr. 𝗵𝗴𝗄, and I have them both here to testify. And the offer of proof would be the 3-page report of notes that I gave the court from Mr. 𝗵𝗴𝗄, and the same type of information was related to Mr. Kearney, which is what prompted us to send Mr. 𝗵𝗴𝗄 to talk to this lady. So, you know, she's not my witness. She is who she is. she's related to the plaintiff, and she has her own reasons for changing her mind or not cooperating. We don't know. Excuse me one second, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge. Counsel is incorrect. The rules of evidence do apply. They're relaxed in these proceedings, first of all. Second of all, this was his witness. She testified. She didn't say what he wanted him to say. He doesn't have an unlimited ability to recall witnesses and call different witnesses to say what he wants them to say. And so I'd say, Your Honor, respectfully, the time has passed. He's offered the evidence that he wanted to offer. It didn't work out as he had predicted, and that happens sometimes. And so I ask that you don't allow Mr. Kearney to testify again.
And Judge, you know, we have
If you
evidence.
have a statement that she gave to your investigator, I'll take that. I'm not gonna, that's it. I mean, if you have a statement that she prepared, that he prepared, that she signed, I'll take that.
There's no signed statement, Your Honor. She
Okay.
didn't want to cooperate. She didn't want to give a statement. But then she would talk to my investigator, and my investigator wrote what she told him, and he signed that report.
Okay, I'm sustaining the objection by Mr. Pauly.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then we have nothing further, Judge. Thank you. No, my objection, please.
Okay, I'll hear you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Your Honor, this case is a fabrication from the beginning. Mr. Kearney had just gotten out of Superior Court. He's not going to go commit domestic violence 24 hours later. And even the nature of this is already on the plaintiff's best evidence is so incredibly ridiculously thin that it smells. It stinks to high heaven, Your Honor. The plaintiff here stole property from Mr. Kearney, and Mr. Kearney, to his credit, remained calm and asked for it and didn't get it. The whole time through this particular night, Your Honor, Mr. Kearney did the right thing in the circumstances. He stayed there when he didn't want to. He tried to keep things calm. He never for a second assaulted Miss Gaetani. She never even called the police. She called investigators who have been prosecuting, and we would contend persecuting, Mr. Kearney for months. She didn't call the Medfield police. That's got to raise eyebrows, Your Honor, that she calls a policeman who's got Mr. Kearney in his sights to the tune of 16 indictments. That itself is suspicious. Her first call is to him. His call is to the Medfield police. He calls the Medfield police. He invited this thing. He created this thing to get Mr. Kearney back in jail, to get revenge on Mr. Kearney for beating them in court 24 hours earlier, getting completely freed of any restrictions that they went to great pains to try to get into place, Your Honor. There's no fear of imminent serious bodily harm on the part of the plaintiff. It's a complete fabrication when you compare the thumb drive full of communications, and I know the court's going to look at all that stuff, and you'll see that it's Ms. Gaetani who's constantly reaching out to Mr. Kearney. She's the one that is manipulating him with this phony pregnancy situation. This whole thing, Judge, is a fabrication for revenge from Ms. Gaetani's point of view and from the police's point of view. The police engineered this whole thing to somebody who is very questionable judgment, someone who acts insane half the time on the text messages to Mr. Kearney, has been maintaining a horrifying pantomime of being pregnant for months and months to manipulate Mr. Kearney and get him into her house and try to make him be her boyfriend through this insane pantomime. Your Honor, the credible evidence here is that Mr. Kearney was being manipulated by her, that this is a 11th hour fabrication, that he pushed me and I fell on the couch, and to try to engineer something that puts Mr. Kearney in jail, puts him at a disadvantage, exactly what the police want in this situation, Your Honor. The police showed up with a summons 2 hours after Mr. Kearney gets free. A summons for what? We don't know. They never had a date in the grand jury. It got canceled. They didn't reschedule it. It's a phony grand jury investigation, we contend, Your Honor. That was all engineered to make Ms. Gaetani a phony witness so that they could put in phony witness intimidation charges. And they manufactured this on the thinnest of evidence in terms of, oh, he pushed me on the couch after she did something stole his property. And the whole evening was engineered by Ms. Gaetani. She asked for him to come over on the 22nd. He didn't do it. She asked him to come over on the 23rd. She baited him through the whole day and said, come over. She gives him a little tidbit of what happened and then says, but let's do the rest in person. And so he comes over. But then in her affidavit, she tells a completely different story. She tries to paint this ridiculous picture that she's the victim and Mr. Kearney is pressuring her for sexual relations, pressuring her to do all sorts of testimony and all kinds of untoward activity, when in reality, it's quite the opposite, Your Honor. And that's what the written record shows, is that it's Ms. Gaetani that is manipulating him, pressuring him. Then she, by her own admission, goes to his enemies and tries to get him in trouble with the enemies. Then she gets put in touch with these police officers that have charged Mr. Kearney first in district court in 9 cases, and then they indict him. They indict a man with no record on cases that could have absolutely been handled in the Stoughton District Court.
That's not before me. I don't know anything about that. Mr. Braylon, I know what you're saying. I'm
Sure.
just focusing on
That's the gist of my argument, Your Honor, is that Ms. Gaetani is not a victim. She's not afraid of him. After the time she said she was afraid of him, after the time she said that she didn't want to see him again, she contacted him hundreds of times. After she said she's afraid that he's going to put sexual pictures of her on the internet, the reality is the opposite. She sent him sexual pictures for weeks after that. It's all false, Your Honor. The whole affidavit is blown up by the Facebook and text record and the testimony of Mr. Kearney. Mr. Kearney was forthcoming with everything that happened here. He repeated details that he's not proud of, but he told the truth and the whole truth about everything that happened here with their interactions. And the truth here, Judge, says that he didn't do anything with respect to domestic violence or witness intimidation. He did exactly the opposite. He told her to tell the truth, and he tried to help her. And she twisted that all around because she's a rejected suitor. And that's what this is about, Your Honor. And she used all of her tools for revenge. She used the police used her. The police basically shook down a mentally unstable woman for their own purposes, and she was a willing participant. So I ask that you please end this charade, dismiss this restraining order, and allow Mr. Kearney to get back to his life. Thank you, Your Honor.
counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just very briefly, appreciate your time today. This has been a long hearing, and we appreciate your willingness to really be thoughtful with participation today. Just on the last comment, that's kind of, I've been lucky enough to represent a lot of women of domestic violence, and that's the classic victim shaming language you hear, that she shared the sexual explicit images in a relationship. So she opened the door for them to be posted or threatened against her to be posted online. That argument makes absolutely no sense. And I know the court picked up on that. But real quickly, there was a lot of distractions today about conspiracies against the defendant. We're not here for that. We're here for this one incident that happened on the 23rd. We have a low threshold under the statute to prove by preponderance of the evidence. And I think we proved that through my client's testimony and the testimony of the defendant. They were in an intimate relationship together. There was violence that occurred on the 23rd when he grabbed her and pushed her, as well as the threats that he made against her with the sexually explicit images and other veiled threats that he made through, images of personal information regarding her children. And then the client, she testified that she remains in imminent fear. And part of that is because of who she knows the defendant to be, especially after the incident of violence, as well as his large following and his ability to continue the harassment and threatening of her going forward. So we ask the court to just grant the extension of the restraining order that you already granted for 1 year. Thank you.
Take a brief recess. Look at these tapes.
Court, all rise. What day is it? Recess, please, been all. Thank you.
Unless you want to have her up here.
And 𝗿𝗏𝗄𝗃. You can come all the way up the sidebar, please.
You're a probation officer across the street?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the respondent?
So, Your Honor, he's currently in lockup across the street. So it's asking me to come over and put on the best course of action.
Right to this court tomorrow, or return to Superior Court and have them come over here?
Right, because there'll be no process, but we can restart this tomorrow
Right.
if he is detained over there.
So I've been given a lot of different information today.
Even if it was issued.
But the court officers are indicating they're unwilling to walk him over here.
She can hold it without.
Thank you very much.
Based upon the evidence presented this hearing today, I find that the plaintiff has met her burden of proof of continuing this restraining order for a year until January 7th, 2025. Mr. Kearney, you have to comply with this order. Thank you. The hearing's over.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Madam Clerk, this is.
The stipulations in the order are, I know it was no abuse at first. Can we add a no harassment policy or provision? Is that possible?
The order is extended as written by the court.
Your Honor,
As entered.
before, I'm sorry, when can,
Sorry, go, no, good.
The order as entered is continued for a year.
Your Honor, I'd like to invite the court to look at paragraph 14. I want to ask the court to modify section 14, which is a prior restraint on Mr. Kearney's speech in the sense that he cannot disseminate.
I think that was done by another judge. That was entered by another judge. Is that correct?
I don't know, Your Honor. It was definitely entered on an ex parte
Could I see it?
basis, that's for sure. So it amounts to an ex parte.
Number 14 was that Mr. Kearney not disclose confidential DCF records and/or court records relating to the plaintiff.
Correct. So, Judge, the breadth of the order, first of all, it was an ex parte issued prior restraint on Mr. Kearney's speech.
Why, does he intend to do that?
Perhaps.
Why?
Because he's a journalist and he wants to exercise whatever First Amendment rights are available to him, Your Honor. And, he shouldn't have to come to any government official for pre-approval to do so. And in that
confidential records, that would be, wouldn't it be?
Sure. So that's
the order says disclose confidential DCF records.
But then it says for court documents. Does that mean it's an interpretation problem? Does that mean also no disclosure of court documents or confidential court documents?
Or court records relating to the plaintiff?
So what I'm contending, Judge, I asked that the rule that paragraph 14 be stricken, Your Honor, as an unconstitutional under the First Amendment and Article 16 of our Massachusetts Declaration of Rights as it's the most odious of First Amendment infractions, intrusions, where an ex parte order has issued of a prior restraint against future speech. It's the most unconstitutional speech limitation there possibly could be, Your Honor. And so I can give you an example of how it's already unconstitutionally acted against Mr. Kearney, where I had a journalist from Michigan contact me asking me for a copy of the statement, Ms. Gaetani's statement and the order. And he wanted to talk about it online on his blog. He wanted to do that. I looked at paragraph 14 and I was unable to conclude that I could send him this order. So I did not send him the order. And it has the ironic effect of this order is available in the clerk's office, but Mr. Kearney and I can't disseminate it. So that's another level of unconstitutional absurdity that's attached to that order, that whatever judge issued that. It's a egregious intrusion on Mr. Kearney's First Amendment rights. He should be able to be subject to to the laws that all of us are subject to, which is if we publish a confidential document, we get in trouble, and that's fine. And Otherwise, he should be able to practice journalism and not certainly have less rights to publish things than any person that walks in off the street and accesses a court file. So I would ask that that entire paragraph be stricken, that he not disclose confidential documents. What does that mean, confidential documents? So
Maybe you can go back to Judge Matthews and ask, Judge Christopher, ask her for a clarification of that.
Well, Judge, I want to ask the court to treat it like any other provision in a restraining order where you're the next judge, you handle the provisions.
What is that, counsel? What is your position?
Your Honor, this is the kind of thing that we're exactly concerned about, is that he has this broad breadth of able to disseminate information. Under the order, technically, he could continue to harass my client and put her in fear of her well-being through his blog, through his followers. He already admitted he posted a video about our client. What's going to stop him from doing that again? So this is why I want a harassment provision. This is what this is all really about, the no contact, the no abuse and no harassment. So he can't go back to his blog and start spewing out vitriol against my client.
What stops someone is the law, Your Honor, and the law against threats, libel, slander, criminal harassment, stalking, disorderly conduct. All those laws are what is the entire basket of laws that
In 209A.
These only,
And
it only
209A.
relates to this plaintiff. All it is, it relates to this plaintiff. I know this whole hearing was about other matters beyond this hearing today. And you were getting into other matters beyond this hearing today. This order is just relating to this plaintiff herself. Why would he ever want to have anything to do with her now?
Judge, it's so broad that me as his counsel can't even publish it to someone who wants to do a story on it. That's so incredibly violative of the First Amendment and so not what this country is about that I don't even know what to say. It's just, there's no legal basis to say that he can't publish court documents. He can't disseminate court documents. That is the best example of the abuse of the ex parte restraining order system, Your Honor, where
I think the concern was with respect to DCF records. Isn't that correct, counsel?
No, Your Honor, you just found that you just put it in place a 209A restraining order. With that comes limited rights. So this First Amendment argument is all well and great, but that's not pertaining to my client. He cannot harass her going forward. He cannot post things about her children, post things about her on his blog that have the purpose of intimidating. And you just found you just put a 209A order in place. It's exactly what this is for. Okay. This is exactly what the legislature intended when they put this statute in place.
Judge, the word harass her, is not a legally helpful word in this context, Your Honor. There's criminal harassment. Yeah. Criminal harassment has been limited by the case of O'Brien v. Borowski to threats, fighting words.
But not in the 258E context or the adjacent
This
statute.
is not a 258.
But that borrows exactly from the 209A language and was written shortly after the.
Okay, get something in writing to me and I'll revisit it again on both sides, okay?
Thank you.
You get something, I'll review it. The order stands as entered, and I'll take that matter on advisement and provide something for me. Okay.
Would you like it provided at a certain date, Your Honor?
How long do you need?
7 days.
7 days. A week.
Fine.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.